И в то же самое время
Yesterday was a bit wetter and cooler than today, thankfully. It's a bit warmer.
I can have 3 of anything.
I'm in a partly pedestrianised road. Buses do come down here. Hey brother, with this flat, can I give you a flyer to tell you why they like it? All the best.
Tô passando pelo centro, sabe? Não, aqui.
Okay guys. Sorry about that. I don't know. I walked away down here and I lost connection. So I don't know.
Where does all the water go at the end?
Nothing cool in America.
You can laugh.
They all are. At first. Never get angry. That's normal. Guys, you can't prove you live on a globe. It's a belief. It is. It is. It's all religion. I should write that there. Massive religion. Oh, what's that? We're very busy.
NASA Asian Disney for adults.
NASA is Disney for adults. It's all made up. CGI, green screen.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, let me give you one of my flyers to take home.
No, thank you.
All the best.
From the jungle to that zoo. From the jungle to the zoo. You better watch out, or they're gonna get you too.
Hunters always be trying, bringing the guns through, still always be dying. And kings of the jungle always be lying. And I can spot a cheetah at her from a distance. But I don't plan to slip banana clips to handle any monkey business. So what happened to Steve Irwin, so leave urgent or repurpose the earth's dirt once you resurface. If you don't watch your back, they got your cat. Next they chop his balls and auction off and sharpen claws for lots of scratch.
From the jungle to that zoo. So you better watch out, or they're gonna get you too.
There's a lot of, we're in Oxford, of course, and it's a lot of, you know, well-educated children who've been getting little gold stars all
We
their
learn
life.
lies in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a monkey.
No. Don't rise to the bait. Mate. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Yeah. You know how deep it goes. The harder it falls, it doesn't want to go.
Affecting millions of UK drivers. Lenders like Black Horse, Santander.
Oh wow, I spelled religion wrong. Oh my gosh, I wasn't in it. That's embarrassing. Wow. Religion. So how are you guys doing? I've obviously put aside a lot of my Sunday to do some talking as a public. Sorry. No, it's not.
Punishment for the mistakes that I made.
Homeless guy doesn't want to know it either. Tell you what, it doesn't matter how where you're placed in the system. It's a mystery. I might get this.
Caught in the idiot race, lost in the infinite days. We're pitiful slaves, a fish in your grave, bugging them away. Scrape just a little of change, take a fistful of faith.
Just a second draft.
I'm in Oxford busting out the red light, man. Some information for you today, man.
Oh. Cheers,
That's-
Sven.
Oh wow, I'm sorry guys, I was muted. So you would see.
Sorry, you filming me?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to be filmed.
Okay.
Sorry. I mean, so many credibility issues as it is. You know what I mean? So.
Oh well, you're not. Well, the good thing is you're not
sorry.
taking the flat side.
No. You're serious. No, I'm just saying. I can't. I can't. I just got to. I just.
I won't film you now.
Please don't. I just.
So tell me.
No, it's fine. I don't.
Okay.
It's kind of not fair because we all have to try and earn a living and all the rest, and it's difficult enough.
Yeah.
With.
I get tiny. You saw it. Sound beautiful. We don't have a lot of traction.
No, but
so I don't get a huge amount of traction.
Well, no, but I'm just saying that I was doing the vaccine stuff, and I lose jobs over it. I've done 5G, you lose jobs over
So
it.
you know how much they're tricking us about.
Yeah, all this, but I'm saying
But
that.
NASA, you still believe?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. I'm literally just saying that I have to earn a living. I've got to stay alive.
Yeah.
So if someone sees me on that, I'm toast again, and I've been toasted several times
Because of the vaccine stuff. Yeah. Wow.
So that's why I just plead with you not to.
Yeah. No worries, mate. Hey. How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, man? I like your t-shirt, mate.
Thanks.
Yeah,
That lives matter.
yeah. I saw a guy in Stand in the Light had a similar one, but black and white.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my mate Dan got me this actually. Part of life. Go and check out my part of life.
Oh yeah, I forgot we're live on YouTube, aren't we?
We are live on YouTube, mate. So I was just apparently I've just been muted. I don't know how long I've been muted for. I'm Knoxville, guys. This is Adi. Adi is a 2021 convert to Florida. June 2050.
It's not a globe.
But now you DJ at festivals.
Yeah.
Through the festivals.
Yeah, so I'm DJing at Sounds Beautiful. That's the next one. Playing before Mark Devlin at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. I played last year. Played Stand in the Light.
Don't we have a dance? That's cool. Don't we have a dance, like a dance flat earth song that you play? You know that,
I need Conspiracy Music Guru to make me one. Make me a house track. Ian, he makes house music. He should make.
It should be a flat earth one because you're doing a set there. I know, and it sounds beautiful. They don't really want to talk about flat earth. I don't think, but to put a flat earth, dance track down would be awesome.
Yeah. We'll have to get one mixed on the level.
Yeah.
it says level on it.
Yeah, I'm not getting the stoppers as much as I expected today. You want some information, guys? Water's always going to seek level. Earth is flat, not a spinning globe in space. Did you know that? NASA is fake. It's Disney for adults. NASA is fake. NASA is fake. Did you know that? The fake space travel. So, yeah, here we are in your hometown, on your patch.
Well, it was my patch, not anymore. I left.
Earth is flat, not a spinning globe. You're welcome.
Not getting much engagement.
I'm not getting much engagement, mate. And now I've had my mute on for a while. I really am sorry about that, guys. T-shirt look mint. Thanks, Daniel.
One of the toughest crowds.
Well, I mean,
It is like a new work order.
a new work order.
Look where we're standing next to. That's Oxford. So
Yeah, I saw a flag actually. I saw a flag on one of the big things. Yeah, Earth is flat, not a spinning globe. We've been lied to about who we are and where we are. Water's going to find level. I've heard a lot of people walking past. Earth is flat, man. Not a spinning rock in space. Space travel is fake. Space travel is fake. We've never been to the moon. International Space Station is a swimming pool. The International Space Station is done in a swimming pool. Did you know that? Spacewalks have never been into a vacuum. Space suits have never been successfully used in a vacuum. Earth is not spinning. You can't point the direction we're spinning in, even though you believe it, because you're in a religion. That religion is called heliocentrism and scientism. The belief that if something gets big enough, it'll attract water to its underbelly. That is complete poppycock and made up pseudoscience. Oh, yeah. Cortado, if you don't mind, love. Yeah, make mine a cortado. Earth is flat, not a spinning globe in space. You've been faked, you've been punked by your educators. Water will seek and find level. The government is all about controlling your mind. Education is to make you slow. Earth is going to find, water is going to find level when at rest. Sea level, water level, not a globe. Space travel is fake, never went to the moon, and International Space Station is mostly Disney. It's all green screen, blue screen, sunscreen. Earth is flat, man, not a spinning rock in space. They lied to us. There is only one true God. Do not trust the man with the science coat on. He is a deceiver of the religion called scientism. Have a nice day. Earth is not a spinning rock in space, Oxford. You know you can't prove the Earth is spinning. You have to believe it because you were taught it when you were 6 years old and couldn't critically think for yourself. Now you believe it because just like someone in a religious cult, you had no choice but to believe it. Heliocentrism is a religious cult. The belief that we are traveling to space is Disney and made up pseudoscience. Laws of thermodynamics cannot be broken. To contain a pressure, you need a solid barrier. You cannot have a vacuum next to a non-vacuum without a container, without a barrier. Think about it. It's factual science. Water being level, sea being level. We build using water level. You want some information? I used to believe all the mainstream stuff. I thought we went to the moon. We didn't.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is good, but, you know, because it's on this other barrier, it does. Earth is not a spinning rock in space. We've been fooled about who we are and where we live. I know you want to believe very much that you are an evolved monkey living on the underside of a spinning ball. But none of that is true. You are created perfect by a creator. But you would rather not be that creator. You would rather be an evolved ape. You'd rather be walking on the underside of a spinning rock than be on a flat plane, like an aeroplane. Water is going to find level when at rest. That's physics 101. Water at rest will find level, and that level will be parallel. You can measure it to sea level. You can measure it. But in the pseudoscience belief of the globe, you cannot measure anything. You just have to theorize about it, because theology is what religious zealots say.
What way are we spinning?
Earth is flat.
20 pounds. What way are we
Earth
spinning?
is not spinning. Earth is not spinning. Can I offer you a flyer? We've got the bilious coming.
Yeah, she thinks she knows best.
Yes. Good day, gentlemen. How you doing? A lot of tattoos on that arm. Nothing to see here. Earth is flat, not a spinning rock in space. Oxford. NASA is fake. NASA is Disney for adults. NASA is Disney for adults. Water will always seek and find level. Because we have water level, the Earth must be flat. Earth is 70% water, right? Earth is 70% water, and water is 100% level when at rest. Some information. Don't be fooled by your educators. They're controlling your mind. Hello, man. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. I believe in the same God as you. For sure. For sure I do. I think we have the same blood. We're from the same creator.
Yeah.
We might have different names for that, but we have the same creator. And I think the spark of Jesus, or the spark of God, is within each of us. And we have to let that light shine.
Yeah.
But the government doesn't want you to know how powerful you are.
Yeah.
The government wants to control you, ma'am. I'm sure you're aware of that. And that's why they give us all this science that tells us we're monkeys from balls.
How's it going so far?
Good, yeah. I'm doing a little bit of oratory today. Yes, Sarah.
Hi guys.
With a flat earth, cool flat earth t-shirt she made. I'm wearing my one from Merkaba Life. Flat earth matters. Yes, flat lives matter, my friends. Because the truth is, water is always going to find level. When at rest, water will always find level. NASA is made up pseudoscience to get you to believe in outer space. Outer space is cartoons. Outer space is Disney. Outer space can be imagined, but we cannot be in a vacuum chamber. There's no way to go in a vacuum chamber. We've never done that. Google it.
Gravity is a theory. Which gravity are you referencing? The Newton's gravity or Einstein's gravity?
Einstein's gravity is a better described.
Gravity allows balloons, it allows butterflies. Directly, they gently fall.
Earth is flat.
But it's maintaining the mood in the actual works.
Well, yes, because it's falling faster than it can be pulled in.
Hey Dave, have a chat with he's the master. Have a chat with these guys, bro.
Well, you know what? I mean, the reason I put this "Earth's Not a Globe" banner up is because I want to stick with. It's like showing that the globe itself cannot be proven. The globe is the claim. You know, when you're a child, or if you've never been in education, you say Earth is, as far as I know, is flat. It's not moving. Yeah, you've got to be told that when you're young that it's moving. It's just this is the science behind it. We'll teach you when you're older how that works. But it's actually
Yes,
finished.
but as a kid, you also don't know to take medicine and to do things, you know, that are supposed to be good for you.
Definitely question that.
It's the same.
It's
the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. We
You
won't
know,
get
and
we
to
won't
eat
go
all
into
the
the weeds.
things and to
We
do all
won't
the
jump
things,
into
and
the
so
weeds
as a
on
kid,
that.
you don't know anything
Okay.
really.
Well, that's
So-
true. Yeah. And a guy walked over water called Jesus, right? He walked on water.
Right,
They teach them that. It's true. And when you're 5 years old and mommy's telling you that, then when you're 50 years old, you still believe it.
And yet that can be disproven.
So,
Yeah, and so can the curving water over the globe.
what was the thing that made you think it was flat? What
Curvature,
was the change?
the formula for curvature.
Okay, so so
and-
you learnt in school it was like you were told in school the same as we were, right? That it was
Absolutely.
rounded. And then so what was the
I was to age
change?
47 before I questioned it.
Okay,
And
and then
I
you found the
believed
formula and
everything. And I
everything
could have told
changed?
you anything about evolution, Darwin theory, Big Bang stuff. I knew it all. And quantum, I studied all of that stuff and accepted all of it. However, I came to a theory of, well, one, I'd started to kind of, a few of the planks of belief in the BBC and the establishment had started to be eroded. But I won't go into that just now. The thing that stopped me in my tracks was maths. Because the Pythagorean formula for the curvature of a globe with a 3,900 mile radius is x. Now, none of you know that. Why? Why don't you know it? Because we're not taught it in school. And when I learned it for myself, and you can Google this, you go, well, what is the Earth curve calculator? It'll give you it'll give you a little tool that'll tell you that if you're at this height and you're looking at something at that distance, there should be that amount of curvature between you and that object, 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles away. And I applied that to my real world experience of having seen things at distances that belied what the formula was telling me should be obscured by physical curvature. If I go around the corner of this building, you cannot see me again. Yeah. So if a ship has gone, you're at the beach, and the ship has gone over the curvature, I cannot see that ship again. But the truth is, you can. You just need more powerful eyes or a powerful camera. And when we take, well, this guy's got a very powerful camera called a P1000. And you got a P1000, and you can watch the ship go away. Go for a quick coffee, come back to the beach and zoom in on that ship again. And it's still on the level. Of course, it keeps going further, but it hasn't.
You eventually stop seeing it.
Yeah, of course, because there is atmospheric occlusion. So there is only there's a limit to so much. But people have then gone further with infrared, and we can cut through some of that atmosphere, and they've seen up to 700, 800 miles away. Yeah. And the world record photo, as I got on my banner here, which is Guinness World Record, so it's not made up, is 400 kilometers.
From what height?
Well, the height, or everything. Once you take everything into account, it works out that most, if not all, of that island that you can see from 300 miles should be behind the curve. So all of that has been put into the curve calculator. I can't remember the numbers off my.
And yet, the height is very important. That is what defines.
Would you agree? Yeah. So we're in agreement that the higher you go, the further you see.
Exactly.
What's that called?
Being able to see a higher cone of curvature.
Yeah, it's called angle of resolution. So you've got two things in play. One is your perspective, which is your ability to see. Like this bus, for example, is going to get bigger and bigger. As the distance halves, it's going to double its size until eventually it's full-size bus, and then it's going to get smaller and smaller, like a train as it leaves the station. It's going to get smaller and smaller. Well, the same applies with, say, a ship, is that it's going to get smaller and smaller. And therefore the resolution for your eye is going to get weaker. However, if all of a sudden we jump into our hot air balloon standing right there at the beach and we ascend to 100 meters, say, now we can see that boat again. And we can see what appears to be horizon beyond.
The distance to the boat has actually not changed. And so our eyes have not changed.
Correct.
And so it must not be our eyes that are getting any change, which means that it is actually the occlusion of whatever is there.
Well, you can't.
Suddenly, if you go up higher, are you saying that we're getting a better resolution in our eyes?
Correct. It's called the angle of resolution.
Yes, but then our eyes don't change. If I go up some flights of stairs, my eyes don't change.
Yeah, the human eye as a limit, right? And we see in the circle.
Well, yes, exactly. But that means that it's not based on our ability to see.
No, the circle as you
which
go higher,
therefore can't have the camera be the proof.
I'm going to give you an example.
Otherwise,
I'm going to give you an example that you prove to yourself is that you can take a torch and put it right close to the floor, and the circle of the light is small. And as you rise the torch up, the circle gets bigger. Well, that's the same with your view, is that as you go up, which is why they put the crow's nest on the top of the ship, because he's got the largest circle of view. Yeah. And so when you're in an aircraft and I've been, say, over the Mediterranean, my circle of view is so great that I can see ships dotted like what seems to be 50, 60, 70 miles away.
Correct,
And they're still, for me, on a lake. On a mirror, something super flat. But if we're claiming from 3-4 miles at the beach, there's already curvature that's hidden a whole big boat. And then when I go up higher, I'm like, no, it's still there, and there's curvature. The horizon's still beyond the boat. Then is it not that we're being tricked rather than there's no physical? So that was what started me. And then we started doing experiments with lasers, with line of sight flash tests, where someone at 5 foot off the water takes a mirror and flashes the sun back to someone 8 miles away. We go, okay. That's impossible if there's any curvature. There's a photograph famously of over Lake Michigan, 50 miles of all of Chicago skyline at the sunset behind it, right? And that's impossible over 50 if the Earth is curving. So according to their formula, there should be 2,000, 3,000 feet of curvature in that 50 miles.
However, there's also a difference between lakes and oceans. An ocean is unrestrained, and then a lake can be quite flat as a terrain. So it could be, for example, a part of the circle, and then part of it is just sliced and then flat.
Well, we have selective. It's selective.
Well, we have.
There are also experiments with the light flashes that have failed and have shown there to be a curvature. So you're telling us the examples of the ones that, in your mind, have succeeded. There are also a plethora of examples that
failed.
That prove
Well, we know
curvature.
that when we're doing it over water, temperature is important because we agree that there is atmosphere or there is moisture in the atmosphere, and more so in certain conditions. So there are times that I accept that I wouldn't necessarily be able to see things, but we know that's true with any sort of long observation or any clarity observation. There's days that we can see things, but damn, I can see all the way to London today.
And yet there is no photo of, a very high up place all the way to Hong Kong. You know, there's
Yes.
no photos of that.
Yes.
And yet we have telescopes. And telescopes can go super, super, super far.
Well, this is what
So how come you don't have a photo of the other side of the planet?
Okay, let me just stop you there, because when you say that we've got telescopes that can see super, super far, we're assuming light years, and that stars are light years away. For us in the flat Earth
No, not
conversation,
even, on the moon, for example. Yeah, we can look up at the moon and look at it.
and that's
have
how far
photos.
away?
400,000
Kilometers, yeah. You can zoom in on Tycho, which is like 40, 50 miles wide, something like that. And you can zoom in on that with your camera. Now, I challenge you to take your telescope from a higher vantage point and look at a land-based subject that you know is 3 miles or 5 miles away, and see how much of your viewfinder you can fill with that. And I just did that test this morning with a friend, when we were out walking in the hills.
But that's
I'm
just
like,
the way of the camera. That's not.
I'm just challenging, because I was also in the belief that my telescope was looking at something that was billions or millions of years old and had been traveling for all these light years and so on. Now I'm far more comfortable with the idea that our rockets can sometimes hit the roof, and they've never been outside of a roof, and the stars are all miles above our head rather than millions of miles away. So when I look at my camera and say, okay, now if I can fully fill my moon with my viewfinder with the moon, zoom right in on it. Now, what other object can I say do a test of a mile or 2 miles and say, can I do the same thing with a building, for example? If I could at 3 miles fill a building and it just filled my viewfinder, I'd start to say, hey, is it possible that the moon is about the size of a building and 3 miles away? Because that's the like for like comparison. Yes, we're told that, but through the atmosphere, it's different when you look up through there.
But that's the same thing as saying that something that's twice as large and twice as far away is the same size as something that is half the size and closer.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that you can prove just here. And so that's
I mean,
completely the same
it could
thing.
it could be that, but like if you zoom in on a plane.
And you're saying it could.
Yeah,
be.
I mean,
That's
I've got to
fantastic.
keep
That's already
an
a
open.
good thing.
Yeah,
That's
I've got to
already,
keep an open mind, because
yeah,
I don't
good.
actually know. I see a round disk of light in the sky, and sometimes it goes away, and
I think it's good to be questioning.
Absolutely,
things.
and we need
but
to be.
also there is also lots of places where there is research and there is things that are proven, and completely different people who have no knowledge of each other's experiments are proving things.
Which is the experiment that you think proves the Earth is spinning?
Well, for example, we knew this many thousands of years ago.
No. Which experiment?
You
see, what you can't do is tell me a fairy tale about something we were all taught when we were 6 years old, that a guy 2,000 years ago did this experiment and that proves that the Earth is spinning. It turns out that the last major experiments to do with the Earth spinning were called the interferometry experiments. And they couldn't come back with a positive value to say that the Earth was moving around the sun. They couldn't find a way of proving that. These are called the interferometry experiments.
I think
then
the difference there is that they
little
didn't
bit of evidence.
communicate it clearly enough for everyone to say, okay, I will say
you're making this up because you don't know. I'm talking about the 30 years where the French and English in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Michelson, Morley, Gale, these were the well-known scientists of their day.
You say that was the last thing. It's in fact not true, because I can directly cite something that I know of.
LIGO?
No. If you look at the weather patterns of the world, right? So you've got northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, right? The spin of cyclones is only one way in the north, and the spin of cyclones is only the other way in the south. There is no other way of explaining that other than the fact that it's a rotating Earth, and you've got not a liquid, but a fluid, which is the atmosphere right on top of that. And so it behaves in one way and behaves on the other way. And you can get that exactly by spinning a football on your finger, and then if you touch it on one side, it will fall one way.
Yes.
If you touch it on the other side, it will fall the other way.
Yes.
It's exactly the same thing.
Okay.
And so that is much more recent, and much more applied, rather than
are we
looking at the actual Earth?
This is what you're telling me is what I was taught, and what I taught my children to university level. So I know exactly where you're coming from, and I'm like, no, but there is another way of explaining that. What you were describing is Coriolis.
Yes, exactly.
Coriolis force, and we're told that Coriolis is an effect effect that will be
spinning Earth,
pushing
yes.
things from a spinning Earth.
Yes, exactly.
Well, having been a long-range gunner in a war, I know that I never had to make allowance for Coriolis, so that the Earth was
Yes, but
spinning
that's
was
because it's
never a
close.
factor.
It's too close.
How close?
Of a difference.
How do you
So it doesn't really make.
How do you know?
Well, how do I know?
They tell
Because
us
this
that's
is-
no.
because this is a large weather pattern effect.
Okay.
You can't see the Coriolis force just on the clouds,
Okay.
but if you zoom out enough,
Yeah.
you can
All right,
see
so-
really the whole cloud system.
I'm
then
with
you
I'm
start
with-
seeing.
So let me bring you back to your
It's the
basketball.
same thing as with the resolution, right? Because if you say that if the resolution is too low,
Yeah.
right? If you zoom out,
Yeah.
then you can see the whole picture,
Uh-huh.
right? Same exact thing.
Yeah.
And if you're not zooming in enough with the camera, and you can't see the little thing, right? It's also that.
Yeah.
So that is the perspective shift.
Okay, so let me just come to the Earth spinning thing, because when you cite the basketball spinning, right?
Sure.
We know, and you're a young man, and I know you would have done this enough times in your life, spun a basketball or spun a wheel, and whenever you do that, you notice that the air will drag a little bit with the ball,
Sure.
or the wheel, but it's not actually going to follow the wheel all the way around.
Well, yes, because it's a very small ball, and not that much of an effect is there. However, do this experiment with a spinning ball underwater, and it will follow it.
It will.
Drag
Would you?
things
Okay,
in.
let's say we put a spinning ball in the bottom of a swimming pool and we spun it up.
Sure.
Even if we spun it up for 1,000 years, the water at the outside of the swimming pool would not be moving as fast as the water at the inside of the swimming pool. Could you agree with that? That there would be drag,
Yes.
more powerful drag right near the ball,
Yes.
and less powerful drag the further you
Yes,
went away
okay,
from the
yeah,
point. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's the inverse of what they're telling us is happening here, is that they're telling us that the atmosphere is sticking with the spinning Earth at 1,000 miles an hour, and then as you ascend into the atmosphere, it's going even faster, so that the column that's above your head can stay on a clear day or on a cloudy day when the clouds are not moving, nothing's moving in the sky, which you've seen. They're claiming that all of that is moving faster, motivated by an invisible force that we cannot describe in physics.
That's not true.
But the atmosphere is stratified, so it
Yeah.
moves within its own layers, and then there are circuits within different parts of the Earth. So the Coriolis vector goes like this along the equator. It's not one single motion the whole
Yeah.
time. So it's not,
Yeah.
if you spin the ball in a pool, it works for the general effect, but you're not seeing like the quadrant of how it's spinning.
I didn't quite fully understand all of that, but I want to offer you something to consider. That for us, if we live on an electromagnetic plate, then we have this Coriolis. We have this turning force at the. So I'm talking about electromagnetic torus, yeah, and an equator is the equal torus point that we have
But
these
what
two
shape
toroidal
is
systems.
a torus? It's
Donut.
not flat.
It's a donut. Well, it's
Exactly.
an apple.
Well, it's not
Is
flat.
it an apple? Yes. It's like an apple or an orange, yeah?
Do you think we think that we're flying through space on a flat disk? Is that what you
You've not actually fully explained what you
Yeah.
So
Okay,
we-
so let me give, now we're getting to the nub of it. Let me give you this, right? So what we see in nature is that everything in nature has to have a skin, a peel, a bark, a shell. Nothing lives without a container. So I say
What
that
about
we...
stones.
Pardon me?
What about a stone?
Well, I wouldn't call that a living thing, right?
Well, okay, that's a
Would
very
you-
big.
Would you call that a living thing?
Yeah, but that's a very big distinction.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Living things.
Okay, so-
have to have a shell.
Yeah. So I say that if we're electromagnetic torus, then imagine the apple, but don't imagine that you're living and walking on the outside of the skin. You're
Right.
inside of the skin at the core, where the seeds are.
Right.
And that our plane of inertia, which is this disc or plate that we're standing on, I don't know the shape of it, but this
Sure.
plate that we're standing on is at the core. And then the electromagnetic spray, which is our north pole and south pole, is the head of the apple where it connects to the tree. And the butt of the apple is what we would call the south pole.
Okay.
And everything, all the way that the rocks form, the way that the birds fly and fish or whales use magnetism to travel, and the way that our compasses work, all of that can be explained on a bar magnet version
You
of the
believe
Earth.
the Earth is the shape of an apple?
Well, I would
Not
say
flat.
electromagnetic torus. So it's, you know how they say oblate spheroid? Well, I would suggest that it is an oblate spheroid, but it's not a material rock that
Okay,
we're walking on
but
the
that-
outside.
but then
But it's an electromagnetic.
Where does the argument about seeing things further away and it being flat come from? What was the,
Well, because
the
I mean,
connection
we're
to that?
so in. Let's
You
say I was
believe the-
creating.
the
Yeah. So
sphere.
let's say I was creating a terrarium out of an electromagnetic egg. In the center of the terrarium, I would put a plate, and on that plate, I would have water, and above some rocks would sit above the water, and some would be below the water. That's it. Yes, you've got an incoming air system, perhaps pumping air and pumping water. That's why we have tides and water movement, and a hydrology system to take, pull water up and create steam and mist and whatnot and rain and all of that stuff.
Sure.
But all that can be done perfectly well, mimicked in an enclosed system. And so we live inside an apple rather than on the outside of the
With
big
a
apple.
flat center.
With a plane, I mean, the water, you see the water, and it's not only water, it's gases. You know this, that all gases will do what these liquids have done, is that they will settle at their own buoyancy point in a container. If you put two gases in a container, they will separate based on their density. Yeah? The lighter gases at the top, freon, neon, and all of those sorts of things will be at the top, and the heavier gases will be at the bottom.
Okay.
And that's what we've got with all of our liquids. And so we have sea level, which is a mean sort of buoyancy point, and then everything above sea level is going to be, the gases will be in strata. Like you were saying, we have the mesosphere, exosphere, the stratosphere. We have all of these things. We don't have a problem with them, but instead of them being somehow convexing around a sphere, and that's magic in itself, because if you look at that, do a cross section, you go, okay, so I've got thinner air or hotter air here right next to this other air. No, I'd say they're all in layers.
Well,
everything works in
layers being pulled in by gravity.
But
that's the whole point.
That's the belief part. That gravity, because your pencil or your can, you've imparted potential energy by lifting it out of its equilibrium.
Sure.
And now when you drop it and you tell me now, because that fell to the floor, it now allows me to continue the belief that everything is pulling into a center mass, which I believe. But now we take a gyroscope and find we can't prove that the plane is going around to Africa, down, and we can't show that. It's flying to Africa like this over a plane. Just mind your back.
Well, a gyroscope is a reference point of view. If you spin it up this way, it'll stay this way. If you spin it up this way, it'll stay that way.
Correct.
So that's almost like saying that north is in the direction I'm facing.
No, if you spin it up this way,
No,
if you spin it up this way and put your nose down,
yes,
will the gyro stay in that position?
Well, it will try to.
No, the gyro will stay in the same horizontal position that it started.
It will try to fight any motion. But if you start it this way...
So the plane, remember, so if the plane's flying from England to South Africa,
sure, and
then the gyroscope, we could prove it, that the gyroscope is still stuck in London time, or London perpendicular, or horizontal, sorry. Now I'm in South Africa, my gyroscope should be perpendicular to the original starting point, but it's not. It stayed rigid in space for the 12-hour flight. And it hasn't moved. And I've taken a spirit level, and there's pilots. I've got friends who are international pilots who say we don't allow for curvature. We don't fly for curvature, and we don't allow for the Earth spinning underneath us. If the Earth was spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, like they claim, at the equator and slower here in England, then planes would have to allow.
Here's a very interesting point, actually. If you look into the way that a plane can know its position on its Earth, it uses a gyroscope to determine that change. So if you look at the mechanism for how a plane can navigate, right? So there's obviously all the...
I have looked at these mechanisms, and then I've
you
spoken
should look
to
again,
my
because
pilot friends. Well,
because
remember,
then
10 years ago, I
that mechanism is exactly a proof that we're on a globe. That is in itself.
What is?
Well, how it works. The reason that it works is because we are on a sphere.
The gyroscope was used in World War II,
okay,
long before they were digital. It was a
and then they used that as well.
device.
And then we understood that it was a sphere.
And they could fly through the clouds and not be concerned about whether they were going towards the ground or not. And if you flew level and you were on a globe, then eventually you would end up in space, if space were real.
No,
so it doesn't work. And let me just,
level is...
I may not convince you, and I'm not trying to necessarily, but I have international pilot friends who used to believe in the globe. And so, now I've looked at it again. We're taught to fly as though the Earth is unmoving and flat. That's how we're taught to fly, but it's not. It's just that, it's locally flat, you won't really notice. And when you build up all the story of everybody telling you it's locally flat.
Fly and know that you're not going to fly into something because, there is some sort of belief that whatever is in front of you, that there isn't anything there. It's the altimeter, which looks straight at the ground, right? So it's not that...
Yeah, so the altimeter...
It's not that you fly and then...
But would you agree that the altimeter, let's just say I'm flying across North America or whatever. Sure. Yeah, if I start my flight at, say, 10,000 feet from sea level, the altimeter will tell me once I go over the Rockies that I'm only 2,000 feet above the ground, because it's 8,000 feet high, say, for example, So that's really just like a needle on a record, just going, okay, it's going up, down, but from the same baseline zero or mean sea level that you started in New York, and now you've arrived in LA.
That's where
you've not
change of geometry makes a difference.
But see
where you can have the same distance.
But this is what you were taught in school. This is what when we're showing a cut through of England or America, this is what we're showing. Is that it's sea level to sea level, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. You're not told to think that actually that's part of a globe, and that 3,000 miles should have about that much bend in it, at least an appreciable amount of bend. And then we have these vast, flat underwater plains called the abyssal plains, which make up most of our.
Plates, which are plates.
Well, there are plates that push together.
Sorry, I'm going to have to cut you short.
But it's been a fascinating conversation.
Yes. Anyway.
I can't be real. You're flat earth.
Well, I don't believe in the globe.
These guys are.
Yes.
So how is it?
Anyway. That we've been to space.
How come?
Well, one, you have to believe the government, which hopefully you don't.
So you can't just look up there with a telescope?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
But what we're not believing is that
though?
it's millions of miles away up there. We're thinking that it's miles up there, not millions of miles.
That's what we've
So
always
everything
gone with
we
millions
see
of miles, mate.
is there.
Well, it takes 8 minutes for light to get here at speed of light, so however far that
What's
is.
the distance between in
Okay,
the
figure it
heliocentric
out.
model?
We'll tell you, it's 93 million miles, according
go,
to the
that's your
thing.
answer.
But you don't even know that, and we have to believe it because we're told it when we're like young. Oh, it's 93 million miles. If you went to school 50 years ago, they would have said it's 27 million miles.
So the Earth is flat, apparently, according to you.
Well, the sea is level, right? Have you ever come across water that's curving over the water?
Yeah, when you look over the horizon, why do things drop off?
Perspective. Perspective.
Where do they go?
Well, that's called perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So if it's flat, though, you'd still see it.
No, perspective is a real thing.
Well, look down there, which
camera, which I've got.
Super's okay. So then
125 zoom. You angular resolution. You bring it up, and then you can see it again. And I've done it.
okay, so the world was flat.
Once you've done it.
We live on a
Would
flat
you agree,
plane.
before you lose this point in your mind, think about this. Like, okay, we can see a few hundred meters up the street right now, but if we jumped, let me finish. If we jumped up 2 stories, right? But if we jumped up 2 stories now, would we see further?
Yes.
Okay, so that's perspective and angle of resolution.
Yeah,
and
because
because we're so small,
what you're
on the
literally
beach,
proving is my point now.
Because
if
we're so
everything
small on
was
the
flat,
beach.
everything was flat, you would see non-stop. It wouldn't
Not true.
stop. Yes, it is.
So the train on a flat track is not getting smaller; it goes away.
What do you mean on a flat track?
You've got a perfectly level rail track
You
away.
would see absolutely
the same size train
you
all the
would.
way.
Yeah.
Or does it get bigger as it gets closer?
I'm not saying that it's getting smaller, but you still see it.
It has to
You
get
would
smaller.
still
It's the
see
law
it.
of
You would still see it.
What do
though.
we call it? Inverse square law.
No.
The thing
It
gets
would-
half the
thing
size.
Is,
when
as it gets
distance doubles.
further away, as it's flat, you would still see it. Yes, you would, to the end. Where does it go? Where does it
Everything
go?
shrinks. Even the people are getting smaller in the short range.
Okay,
right?
so if
They're
you get your
getting smaller.
camera out and we keep looking at it, you're going to still see it forever, right?
So long as something's not getting in the way,
not?
and we've got
Because the
atmosphere.
camera's
not?
not powerful enough to see.
Okay, so we just keep getting a bigger. We just keep getting a bigger camera.
You know what? You know what?
I know, I do see what's it, but
No, you still get a bigger camera each
Yeah, you know what the best camera is for that is called an infrared camera, and so
Okay,
guys
so
have
you
done
still
that.
see it, right?
Okay, so
Do you
let me
still see
finish.
it, right?
Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear?
Okay, I'm hearing. I'm listening.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I'm listening. But what you're telling me is it would.
I'm still trying to
for a
talk.
minute, just let him talk.
So we've taken an infrared camera and filmed all the way down California into Mexico, taking a photo of mountains that are in Mexico, and they reckon to be 1,000 kilometers away.
A mountain, yeah.
So the world record photo here is Guinness World Record is 275 miles. That's on a clear day with the sun setting behind the mountain. So that gives you the best range of view. That's Guinness Book of Records, mate. That's not made up stuff.
No.
This
I'm
is
just looking at that.
And a guy went up into Wales recently. It's not Guinness World Records, but he took a photo of 7 Alps mountains from Wales.
Mountains.
Yeah.
Nice. Why can't I see the floor?
No?
Why can't I see the floor?
Floor of what?
The ground. If I'm sat in Wales, why can't I see over there?
Well, it's
So
like
what- if
anything
the
else,
world's
like
flat-
we can see the tower first, and then as we get closer to the
tower?
building, we will see that church tower.
Yeah,
Why?
okay.
We can see that when we're approaching Oxford.
Yeah.
But we can't see the bottom of it. Why? Because everything, as
Because
you get
everything
closer,
curves.
it's to do with
Everything's got a curve on.
Okay, so what's the formula for curvature?
If you want to calculate, what do you mean, for circumference?
I'm talking about the globe you believe in. You should
globe
know
that we
the
believe in.
formula for curvature. If a ship is going away at 3 miles, 4
Yeah.
miles, as you say,
You have to
We
calculate
should be able to measure that because science is measurable.
Yeah, you
Good
would
science is
calculate the
measurable.
drop.
Otherwise, we're just theorizing
How
and
much
could be
curvature
religion.
is that 3 miles?
Not something that I can give you off the top of my head.
No, because we're not taught
We
this.
can
So
stand
what's the
here and
maths?
argue forever.
Okay, so
but
what's the maths then? If you want to give me the maths.
Would you want to take my flyers to why they lie?
It's insane.
So there should be
Right.
But Luke,
absolutely
they have
insane.
their
I would
opinion,
love to send-
You have your opinion. You're
People
not
walking-
going to change it.
people walking underneath
So
a ball.
He's been doing this for 10 years.
people walking
I've been
under a
doing it
ball.
for 4 years. Do you,
Yeah.
do you think that
Yeah,
like, we,
people
do you-
walking
do you
under a
think
ball,
we've not
impossible.
studied the
Okay.
heliocentric model?
So what do you believe about? So what do you believe about other planets?
They're lights.
I don't believe
They're
in
lights.
the heliocentric theory. I don't believe
So
in
you
it.
don't believe there's any other planets? You believe?
No,
that
I
we-
believe they're lights in the sky. I believe they're within our.
They look like stars, but
You're
you're told they're
believing-
wrong.
You can't have a conversation.
No,
because
I
you
just find
you're really-
hilarious.
Yeah,
I find that you believe the moon is a light.
I find it hilarious.
So you mean
think
that we-
we're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles
But
an
you
hour?
believe that the
and
moon
there
is a
are
fucking
kangaroos
light?
in
But you believe
Australia
it's a rock
jumping
floating
upside
in
down.
space,
You
bro.
believe
And
that
that's
there are
fucking
helicopters in Sydney right now on
Rocks
the
don't
other
float.
side of the globe
Absolutely.
taking
You've
off.
been there.
Rocks don't
Yeah,
float.
okay.
You've been there.
Rocks don't float.
I've lived in Australia.
Rocks don't
for 2
float.
years,
Rocks don't
mate.
float.
Wh-
Prove,
What do you mean?
Yeah,
prove
but
that
if you
rocks
throw a
float.
wa-
Prove that rocks float is a really easy way. Well, yeah, there is.
Go on.
Density.
Float.
Density.
Yeah, maybe yeah. So
Density.
we're saying that buoyancy or gravity is density. You can float an anvil on Mercury, right?
Yeah.
So where's gravity?
How do you mean?
Well, gravity's not pulling it,
Gravity
right? Because
created.
of buoyancy.
So gravity comes from mass. Everything has a gravity.
That's the belief.
Everything has a gravity.
Everything
The way
has an
that you can-
electromagnetic
The way that
attraction,
you
yes,
can
but gravity no.
basically show it is basically by getting a big circular kind of sheet of lycra. The way that they prove it in physics
Oh
classes.
yeah.
Have you seen this?
That's Newtonian, right? No, it's
But it proves
Einsteinian.
around, yeah, and it
But
proves around
but
gravity.
you know what?
So
I
you
used to
basically
believe that too. But in 2 revolutions, the ball's gone to the middle.
yeah, and that's eventually.
The problem they have with that science is that you couldn't do 3 balls around that and get them to
No,
do
they
anything
do.
but chaos.
They
So
literally.
the
there is
idea
a
that
proof.
the moon is not being
There's
dragged off
I
by
think
the
it's.
sun
I can't remember who it
and
did
all
it.
of
It's
this stuff
Harvard or
doesn't-
MIT. One of the two of them basically did this experiment. They put a mass in the center. I think it was 5 kilos or whatever
Yeah.
it was. Big circular mass. From that, it's on a big sheet of lycra. They then add basically additional balls that then
Yeah.
start to create an
Yeah,
orbit.
yeah,
Eventually, the orbit dies out because of the mass. But eventually, we're still going to die
No,
out.
but you have to believe that in billions of
But you
years.
can
this
literally-
occurred
you
from a
literally
I
fire.
have
have
a
a-
genuine question. What about time zones then?
Time zones can work on a flat Earth, no problem. Just like how imagine the face, the hour hand on your watch.
Yeah, but
Ima-
I'm talking
imagine-
about the sun then.
Yeah.
Like, how is the sun?
Okay, so
It's not
imagine-
going like this. How's it going? Like
Okay,
this?
so imagine your watch has got a flat Earth map on it. Do I have one here? Imagine you got United Nations logo. Do you know the United Nations logo? Okay. So the United Nations logo is a flat Earth, a possible flat Earth map, and put that on your watch. Now imagine that the 12 o'clock is England, and as the hour hand goes around, it takes the sunlight with it to different parts of the Earth. Remember, this is it here. Remember, we used to be, most cultures, all cultures from the past believed that this is how the Earth looked.
The sky's
And
a perfect clock.
it's only in the last 200 years that they've wrapped it around a ball and said, no, you live on a ball. And then when they went to the moon, the argument died. And people couldn't continue the argument. Oh, yeah, maybe they must be right. Because we've seen a photo from the moon. It turns out that they went to the moon. Let me make this interesting point. We don't know this. They went to the moon 6 times. They landed on the moon 6 times. And in the first 5 missions, they forgot to take a photo of the Earth from space, from the moon, for the first 5 missions. Why didn't they take it? If they've got video cameras, they can take golf buggies and all that. Why didn't they put a video camera up there for an hour and say, we're just going to film the Earth spinning, weather, everything happening? Why not do that?
How do satellites work?
Balloons. And as the data
So
industry
we send them
admits,
up on we send them up on a balloon.
Satellite.
we got lots of satellite videos.
Google
Google's
project. Just
Google Loon.
So
it.
what's going on in Miami, in Florida at the moment, where they basically have all the launch sites? Take SpaceX, for
I've
example.
seen it. I lived in Florida, in
You lived-
Orlando.
okay.
I lived in
So those
Florida.
rockets that are
I used to
going
work
up,
at
you believed
Universal
it, are
Studios.
taken.
I used to believe it. I worked at Universal Studios. They had a rocket launch. I asked my
Yeah.
bosses, can I watch the rocket launch? They let me take the time off so I could watch it. So I saw something going into the sky.
Okay.
I did. I saw it with my own
Yeah.
eyes. And I used to believe
So,
the
it's
globe and
so
everything.
where's the balloon come from then? So what's
No, that's
that
a rocket. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
so-
talking about.
so
The
yeah,
rocket.
so
So
the
the
rocket is
rocket
what takes
goes
them-
to the Bermuda Triangle. It's a massive graveyard. They just fly over into the Bermuda Triangle, and there's yeah. You can laugh all you want.
I'm
mate.
going to laugh
So
at
you're
that
saying
because
that
that's
the government
hilarious.
is lying to
Yeah,
us
yeah,
about it
because-
being
So
around?
why isn't there a graveyard?
You
Every
believe-
government in
you
the world
believe
is
that
working
we're
at the
flying
top table, is working together. So when they come to World War III or whatever's coming down the line,
right?
know that the governments of Russia,
rockets are
America,
taking-
China,
taking
Britain,
off,
they're
going
all
into
working
the orbit,
together to control you.
attaching
Yes, but I
themselves to
don't
an
what do they
international
get from
space
telling us
station.
the world's
That
around when
is,
it's
that's what I put on my
Don't
flyer,
attach-
is that
well,
you know
it
it's
depends
about
on-
minimizing,
How do they get the
controlling,
actual
and restricting. And we think that
Okay,
there
so
could be
that
other
part's attached, but we're
continents
talking
that
about
we've never been
satellites. We're not
introduced to.
talking
So
about
there's a thing called the
the
Antarctic Ice Treaty, which imagine the bevel of your
So when we
watch,
get gravity-
the outer rim of your watch. If
Nothing
that's the
happens.
Antarctic
So-
ice ring,
so that- right,
there
so-
is a treaty
okay.
that prevents us from traveling 60 south. We're not allowed. People are not allowed to go there unless you're on a controlled, militarized
You look at a
kind
photo
of
of
visit
satellite,
into a one island or one little peninsula. We cannot travel freely. Mankind, no
if you
matter how
look at
wealthy
how
you are,
satellites
you
built,
could not
look
take
at how
planes and
satellites
boats and go,
built.
look, I'm just going to explore. I'm not going to make any mess. You're not allowed to do that. Not since 1957, when all these big countries signed that up. So yes, if you find that there's a perimeter around where you live, you'll go, well, is there something outside of that? Why have they put that there? Why have they stopped us, mankind, from traveling? Oh, it's to save the penguins. If you Google why, to save the penguins.
There's land outside of Antarctica. But we're not
So
giving
how
that.
does your phone work? Because we use satellites to transfer our work off our phones.
You're saying that on camera? Do you really believe that?
Do what?
Your phone is catching a satellite
How else would it work?
from a ground tower? Don't
Yeah.
you travel much? Whenever I go out of town, I can't get a signal very well.
We run everything through satellites. Data's transferred through satellites.
99% of all data goes undersea cable.
And it, for me, it depends. I've always known the government lies and they're corrupt. They're not looking out for the people. They never have. You know. So it all filters down.
Earth is flat.
If they're lying to us.
This is not a globe. NASA
about
fake
who
space.
we are and where we come from. We don't. So we're all walking this earth, not knowing where we come from or who we are as people, because we're told we live on a. Can you see how big that is?
Yeah.
If we're told we live on a globe,
No fucking space. NASA fake space. That's just literally Disney for adults.
and already it's like Australia's underneath.
NASA is Disney for adults. NASA is a hoax. Tim Peake never walked on in space. Outer space is a fake. International Space Station is done in a swimming pool.
I think it's like something. Do you know about the yellow
I finished that coffee ages ago. I've been holding it in my hand the whole time. How are you guys? How you doing? Good.
That we evolved from monkeys, and there was a big bang where nothing magically exploded and became everything that we can conceive of.
Yeah.
You know, where does all that matter come from? How does gas coalesce into a ball and become a gas giant that we're told, Neptune and so on? It doesn't work with experiments, so that's why I think the Earth's flat. I think they lie. What I observe is flat and stationary. We always see the North Star in the same place.
So you won't give her the
I've done the research, and now I won't
That's
do it.
interesting.
Yeah, it's the first year
So
of my
what
life
if
she
your
had
daughter, out
all-
of curiosity, what if your daughter wants to get those facts?
It's possible.
She did the research herself.
Spinning at
Would
1,000
you stop
miles an
her?
hour.
She already knows.
6,000 miles.
It's like me saying
Chasing the sun at half a million miles an hour.
like me saying to a guy,
How many miles it comes out every day you go out, wherever. Same practice, like nothing other than
why would she?
we observe it moves
Because
around us.
you know, having
We're talking about
raised
it. We're talking about it at school.
You'd be
It's
raise
your
a
own
child
journey.
anyway. It's
There's
fine
no
for you to
club.
dress
If you
appropriately
Google
and
stuff,
whatever.
you find the flat Earth
Let's
society. That's
go, you know what?
nonsense.
I've just decided that.
In
I mean,
space.
it's something.
That's a hard one. I think it's just an idea. My mum seeded to TV, unfortunately. Just an idea. To give you thinking thoughts. I'll show you.
So you're going to place so many people at risk. You think about polio.
Polio is going up.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of interesting.
Due to vaccination.
Vaccination brought it back.
So what about 60s? In the 60s, when there was
They
a
were already
massive,
vaccinating.
there was
They
a
were already
massive
vaccinating.
polio epidemic.
Yeah, because they
vaccines
started the
came in.
vaccination. No. There's plenty of people, doctors. Honestly,
I'm not going to have a conversation.
Honestly, I know it's hard to hear.
It's not though. It's fucking logic. Because the government's not going to poison everyone. And that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Why would the government go out to poison its entire population? Because that's going to fuck them over.
Right. Don't you think that you make lots of customers for the boots and the pharmaceutical industry?
My jabs aren't paid for. Everything was on the NHS.
They aren't paid for.
I didn't pay for
Who
it.
pays for it?
We did.
The taxpayer.
Taxes.
Exactly.
But-
So other people have to be robbed so that you can take this experimental.
So you think taxes are robbing as well? Fucking hell.
Well,
Do
I
you
could
actually
come
have
to-
the job
do you
out
mind
of
if I came to
curiosity?
your house and said, can I have, I used to work for the government in Westminster, and I went to war for my country.
Did
So
you?
I know all about stuff.
Did you? Where'd you serve?
I served in South Africa and
Okay.
I served in the Angolan War. On the front line, I wrote a book about it. I gave Prince Harry a copy of my book, and he wrote back to me and said, thank you, book.
Okay, interesting. Fair enough, fair play to you.
So I have been in a taxpayer. I have been in the system, and when I found out this stuff 10 years ago, I had to walk away from it.
So you don't pay taxes now?
Well, I mean,
Do you
of
want
course
to just
I pay
admit
tax.
that?
You know what?
But you just said it's a scam.
Of course there is scams.
So-
But if I buy petrol, right?
Yeah.
If I buy petrol, I'm
But
forced to
on
pay
your
tax.
on your income, your
What income?
working income.
What income?
So
I'm
you
not
don't have a
slave.
job.
I'm
You
not
don't have a
slave.
job.
Well, I mean, what's the job?
Do you
I
do you
income.
earn money
Yes, of
through?
course I do.
So do
That's
you
why I
pay
can
money
do
on that earned income? Like, do you pay tax on that earned income?
Yes, every time I go to the shop. I
No,
get
no.
taxed.
I'm not talking about that because that's what
Income
we all.
tax. No.
So you don't pay that.
No.
So you just openly on camera. You
Yeah.
don't.
No, this, what my,
So-
my little boy
so-
doesn't. I'll tell you this on
Yeah.
camera. My little boy doesn't have a birth certificate. Figure that out. Hi, you guys.
How are
I
you?
got some information for you.
I would love some.
Can we learn?
If you think you're scared of the system, don't be so scared of the system. How are you guys doing? Are you a doctor?
No, that's
Says
just my
DR.
initials. That's just my initials. My parents always wanted me to
Oh.
become a doctor, so they thought if they named me that way, then it would
She's a
happen.
Do you know that's
biochemist.
funny because my initials are DR.
Really?
And one time I was staying in a hotel and I'd use my bank card to sort of put behind the thing.
Yeah.
And because it says DR in my surname, they used to. My friends would phone up and say they'd say, oh, the doctor's in his room right now. And I was like, oh, that was fun. I was about 23 at the time, so that was pretty cool. But so you guys are studying here?
Yeah.
Oxford. Okay. Well, good luck with everything. But yeah, we've come here to try and just catch a few people's attention and say, hey,
Yeah.
some of what we're being taught is intentionally, or not by your professor, but is intentionally misleading us. This idea that we evolved from monkeys and that we are living on a spinning rock in a very violent vacuum of space.
I don't think we
all of
evolved
that.
from monkeys. Do you think we evolved from monkeys?
Well, actually, I was just writing an essay about this on my laptop.
Really? That we do or don't?
I'm a big fan of evolution, big
Oh, yeah,
believer.
okay. I was 47 until I gave up my fandom of Darwin and everything. I was a big evolutionist.
What changed
trust
your
me.
mind?
I had an experience with ayahuasca. Have you heard of DMT, dimethyltryptamine,
Yeah.
pineal gland?
Yes.
Yes. So I got my butt kicked by whatever the higher power is here. And I went in an atheist at age 47. 7 minutes later, first words out of my mouth is, it's true, there is a God.
What
But-
does there
but
being a
not
God?
the God of religion, a God of something much more magnificent, much more loving. And I now, 10 years down the line, because it's been 10 years since that awakening or revelation, is now I say that we are the expression of God. And so whatever God is in you. So there's no
God
religion,
sucks at
there's
stuff.
nothing higher than you here, but we've given away that sovereignty, that divinity, if you like. We've given that away through years, eons, certainly centuries of barbarism, where we've been beaten into believing certain things, initially religion, Christianity, and so on, and subsequently we've been offered scientism as a way of giving us another form of external worship and control. When we are the whole thing that's here, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything is here for you. The whole thing, the whole plate, the whole world.
I get that argument. I get the spiritual aspect of it. I just don't get why that means that evolution isn't true.
I had to nearly die. Well, okay, good question. I had to nearly die for, my experience in the DMT was like a near-death experience. I describe it as that when I talk to people that can't handle the idea that I took DMT. That it was like a death experience and I was a passing over, and I discovered that I was part of like a higher self that was an eternal being that couldn't be harmed by atom bombs or anything here. So that was the first part of that. Then for me, okay, let me just dial back a little bit. For me, the idea that we are atomistic, Newtonian atoms, and material fell away in that 7 minutes, because I saw everything not as physical walls and trees, but as frequency, as light and vibration. And I studied Nikola Tesla a little bit after that, and I'm like, damn, he was talking about what I saw, that everything is actually just a perturbation of a medium called the ether, and we see it as rock or wood or person here. But that person is different to the rock in that it's carrying a light or a spark from the essence that we call God, from the essence that we call the Most High or the
Kind
Creator.
of very, very similar to Sikh belief.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too far from
It's got a lot
Sikhism.
in common with what I've been studying with Jakob von Uexküll.
Yeah.
I've been studying some weird old German biology.
Sikhs believe that you have like a part of God in you. Everyone has a part
Yes.
of God in you, and then when you die, that's essentially.
I think most religions have
Most
some
religions
form
do,
of that in
but
them.
I wouldn't say- I wouldn't say
no,
traditional
not Abrahamic.
religions believe in the
Not Abrahamic.
does.
Not,
But you
sorry?
have, like,
Well, in Judaism, you have the breath of God in you.
Yeah, you do.
And,
yes,
and,
yes.
and you are a representation of the world. Like,
Yes.
you know, in like Jewish
I guess
theology is
it's-
but
broad
but,
tent,
but
you
they're
got,
waiting for a savior, right? A Messiah.
Well,
right?
many Jews are. Many believe that
he came with
come,
Jesus,
and
or-
many believe that the whole story of the Messiah is just a bit bummed.
Yeah. So, because with Christianity, and particularly if I focus on Christianity, there is an external savior that they insist has to be this other guy. Jesus, in this case, says it be the other guy, rather than you are the savior of yourself, because you are the center of the universe. And so you are your own master. You cannot have someone else dictate your mastery. You have to earn it through your own. If you want to be the master of the ship, you cannot sail your ship around the little Oxford Harbour. You have to go in the big sea. You have to be in the Pacific and the Atlantic and go, I've sailed the big seas. I am now truly a captain of my ship. But if I say, no, stay in these guardrails, wear a mask, put this in your arm, do all of these sort of things, I'll protect you, then you're giving away mastery to someone else.
I don't know if this is a relevant question, but my question is sort of like, does it matter what the right answer is as long as people live according to their own means? A lot of people find a lot of joy in the routine of Christianity and believing in someone else. Does it matter if it's right, if it's good for you, if it works for your lifestyle, if it makes you happy? Or are you saying people can be happier if they unlock a different way of living?
Well, I would certainly agree that, yes, of course.
A lot of people
I would
who are
certainly-
Muslim, people who
Ah.
follow Islam, find a lot of joy in the routine. And
Yeah, absolutely, and I admire I've got a lot of Muslim friends, and I go to Speaker's Corner and talk to a lot of Muslims and imams and whatnot. And I respect what their teaching does for them as people in the main. Buddhism is a lot like that. Go to Thailand, the people are beautiful, because they are expressing their Buddhist kind of understanding and ideology. And it's true too in Christianity. There is a lot of good doctrine. But the problem is that once I choose a team, I'm now batting always for Sunni or Shia or Catholic or Protestant or
there's no wiggle room,
whatever.
there's no kind of
Well,
leeway.
that's one thing, is that I'm needing a club to be my protector rather than I am my own.
Okay.
So I take a lot from Islamic teaching or Christian teaching or Buddhist teaching, but I'm like, okay, I'll read the book, the handbook on how to drive, but now I need to drive myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand how to fix the engine, but I need to be allowed to go out of harbour and sail. But I've done all my
very Nietzschean. Like,
that's
that's what
yeah.
you were saying.
Yeah. So it's self-responsibility, because the more a child is cosseted by its parents, the less responsible it becomes. But the more you have to get up off your own and learn how to walk and so on, the quicker you learn to walk.
So you believe in spiritual responsibility of the individual, religion just lets you submit yourself to something else instead of improving
So
yourself.
you don't look a better way of living, or you're more satisfied with your life?
I mean, I don't want to be in the kind of, this is a better way of living or whatever. But I think that it's more important that if I've lied to you, then I can't. If I lied to you and your friend comes to you and says, "Hey, he lied to you about something," wouldn't you rather know that and go, "Okay, now that I have the truth about that, I can proceed in this life, be in this world, but on the basis of truth." Because if I was lying to you, I had a motive. And until you know that motive or accept that there was a lie, you are never going to be unaffected by my intention, which was, well, I can't answer exactly why I created the globe or why I murdered someone or someone got murdered. I'm only coming across it and saying, hey, look, it's not what we thought it was, or hey, there's a murder here, but don't make me responsible for answering why. So now, now you hear that, you go, okay, why does it matter? Why should it matter to me? And that's what I put on my flyer, because once we understand the gravity of the lie, we will not get drawn into the the games that they're trying to play on your soul, because I think we're energetic beings, as I said, and I think they're trying to draw or take your energy in this lifetime, perhaps for something in the afterlife. That I can't speak to with authority. However, I can say we are mind, body, and soul, and we should, if this is the temple of God, we should be ensuring that we don't allow poison into the eyes or ears. So poison being the deceptions.
Right.
So what do you think to, like, because you're it's all very compelling, but you kind of, like, you've got this, like, big skepticism. You don't want poison poured into your eyes. What do you think of people who are skeptical but come to different conclusions? I believe in evolution. Unlikely that you're going to shake that, and I think that I've come to that conclusion quite freely, and that, like, I've been as skeptical as I can be, but that is where the evidence has led me. Like, where people just don't see eye to eye on stuff. What do you think that means?
I mean, we don't have to agree on everything, and of course, even in the religions we were talking about, people have different interpretations of the same book, same sentences, and they do different things with them. I can't shake you from that, and no one could. My dying mother, 4 years before I did the DMT, 2011, my dying mother could not get me to accept on her deathbed that there was a God or that there's Jesus or any of that. I wasn't buying it.
Yeah.
And so I needed to be knocked over by a bus, as it were, to have my butt kicked and to go, damn. And I'm 47, published author. I'm like, I thought I knew stuff. And the third thing I said was, I'm going to have to relearn everything again because nothing that I've been taught. So what I offer to you, you're obviously both well-read and educated and stuff like that. But what if I was to suggest to you that I'm only offering you 180 degrees of the knowledge potential? The other 180 degrees you've never seen because we burnt the books or occulted the knowledge in secret societies, and we do not allow that information out such that you might never see it. And I'll give you a great example. There are top oncologists in this country, cardiovascular surgeons, top of the draw, who've said in 2020 and 2021, we think what you're doing with the lockdowns, with the vaccinations, with the masks are hazardous. And now we see, when we look at the vaccine injury reports, we see that millions of people have indeed been injured by the vaccinations, if you're willing to look at this information. Now, those doctors were flying in the face of what the mainstream and what the medical journals would allow them to say. A lot of them lost jobs, they were censored, they weren't allowed to say stuff. I lost my YouTube channel for suggesting to people that we shouldn't be just simply taking experimental vaccinations without due diligence. And now we see the chickens coming home to roost with that.
Well, I mean, the evidence with these vaccinations, it'd be interesting to look at it, but there's like a million things that could influence how effective a vaccine is in the human body. The person's unique genome, any illnesses they have, their allergies, their histories. It's kind of a very blanket statement.
Comorbidity. Yeah, but it's
there's a million different factors with this.
But let's just say we in the age group say it's hard to get great data from that. I used to work in the government with data.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get really good data on this. But in the first year of the lockdowns, I've ripped 100 years of death data from the UK, and it turned out that in 2020 the death rate was only marginally higher than the last 5 years average. Right. However, when you look at the death rate since 2021, it's above average in most Western countries by up to 10%. That the numbers of deaths, instead of being 1,000 a month or whatever, it's now 1,100 a month.
Okay.
So what has changed? And the most important and biggest and most significant seismic change has been the vaccination program. Now you've got top doctors and oncologists saying we're seeing cancers we've never seen before. People are presenting at stage 3 and 4. Normally when you've got a cancer, you present at stage 1 and 2. Now they're getting people, they come in and say you've got weeks to live, when normally you would have said we've got years to live. So they're saying this, and now we're seeing that in the 18 to 49-year-old group, they're seeing conditions of blood clotting. Doctors are saying we've never seen this level of blood clotting. Family members that I know their health has been impacted since doing this. But going on the streets as I do, I meet lots of people who say I've been injured by that. Or you can go into the chat rooms of these people that are doing this research, and you will see hundreds and hundreds of people writing terrible stories about either children or loved ones. So suddenly, within days, hours, weeks of the vaccination, just going into spasms, can no longer walk properly. They're they were healthy. You see pictures of them, they're your age. They look vivacious. You look like you've got 60 years easily on the clock still, right?
I mean, what's the
And then-
comparison between people who got symptoms and then people who didn't? Like, I'm fine, you're fine.
No, I'm all weird.
Yeah, you're weird for a different reason.
Yeah, well, for me, if you look at the World Health Organization data, you'll find that we usually get about 30 million cases. They record 30 million cases of flu every year.
Yeah.
And in the year of COVID, they recorded none because they called all flu COVID.
Right.
So COVID was a bad flu. That's really, to kind of boil it down. But because of that, this idea that, I mean, before that time, like if I had flu, my friends would still come visit. No one ever was worried about coming to visit when you had flu. No one, because you're the one who's unwell, and you're not going to make me unwell because you got flu. You've had a rough night or a few long weeks or whatever, studying whatever. Now your body's saying you need a rest.
But it's a contagious virus.
Can't be proven. Can't be proven. Do you know what, that they've done experiments? This is what we don't get taught in medical school, is that you look at the experiments they did with the Spanish flu, where they tried to use contagion. They tried to take snot, blood, material from flu-ridden horses and try to infect other horses, and they couldn't do it. We can put a healthy... I would go
that's
into...
not necessarily representative. Like, if it's a novel flu to horses, it won't necessarily spread to other horses. That's not like, if it's an endemic human disease, it might spread to other humans.
My mother was an intensive care nurse for all of my childhood. She's a very healthy lady, never brought sickness home, never was a problem. I would, because I do not have the same fear that's been impregnated into you guys, I would walk into a hospital room with people who've got anything but perhaps dengue fever, but anything else, any flu, any whatever, people wheezing, coughing. My health is in good condition. I can go on the train today and not blame it on the people on the train. If I was to
Would you go into a hospital and tongue someone with AIDS?
Tongue someone with AIDS?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out, and you know, the guy who invented the PCR test, Kerry Mullins, you should look into him. You find him quite
I
interesting.
love the guy who invented the PCR test. We were there for that lecture.
I was not there for that
Were you
lecture.
not there for that lecture? He was all like, if I didn't go on LSD, then I would have never...
Oh yeah, I did go. Yeah,
You
with
went to
Los
that
Angeles.
lecture?
You went to a lecture of Kerry Mullins?
Yeah, well, no.
About him.
About him. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he said, look, the COVID test is not fit for purpose. I mean, the PCR test is not fit for purpose. It's not going to tell you whether someone's got COVID. And I know lots of people anecdotally who said, I got a positive test, but I feel absolutely fine. So what is...
plenty of false positives.
Yeah, so the test is useless. In other words, and what is it actually measuring? When it gives you a positive, it's not like a pregnancy test. It's saying that there are protein markers, or there are some markers in your system but that doesn't mean you're about to fall off a cliff health-wise and end up on a ventilator. That doesn't mean that at all. In fact, for 99% of people who got a positive test, they just stayed at home, stayed in bed for a couple of days like we do with flu, and then they were fine again. You know?
But yeah, I mean, no one said
That's
if you got
flu.
positive COVID test, you're about to die. I think it's...
They frighten people so much, and that's why they made people do all these tests. But actually, nothing has really changed in the world.
I guess.
So the whole thing of virology, I started to look into it, and it's like, wow, is HIV something? Because there are virologists who will tell you that we've never isolated a virus. You cannot find the COVID SARS-19 or whatever it's 2. You cannot find that. They cannot take that out of a petri dish and say, here is COVID. They can have the activities occur in a petri dish and say that's the effect of COVID, but they cannot find you a COVID. The same is true with the AIDS, the HIV.
Yeah,
Is that this virology, this whole subject of virology could be a complete made up stuff. Same with the atomic stuff. That the idea that Nikola Tesla would agree with me, that the idea that there is a tiny little stone, what we call the atom, with electrons and protons flying miles around it if you're on the scale of a stone, that is not true. And even if you look at quantum physics, you'll find that, well, what we can do with 97% accuracy is predict where the atom will be in this place. So we can't actually do this. So the idea that, like Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency, vibration, and sound. So everything is actually a perturbation or a vibration. So when I have a virus or whatever, if I'm carrying something, if I had a negative energy, it is possible that your energy field, because we're actually standing in each other's energy field right now, is it possible that my energy field sitting next to you on a plane could affect your energy field such that you might get unwell? Or is it simply that you were on the plane, the lights were bad, you got a bad night's sleep, the food is shite, and now tomorrow your body was ready for a flu because you pushed it to the limit now. So anyway, so the point of viruses is that with all of this atom stuff, the idea that the Earth is flying around the sun is partly atomic. It's partly this idea that, you've got electrons, protons, and all these things doing this. Well, we say none of that is real. It's all, we're inside of a soup. Imagine we're inside of the sea at the moment, and everything is just a vibration in that medium, and it's either going to manifest as this voice of mine or as a piece of metal or plastic or whatever. It's all just vibration, and in entropy it all just breaks down and recycles and returns up. And in quantum physics, I'll tell you that there are vast trillions and quadrillions of amounts of bits of tiny stuff rising up through the ground all of the time. Well, that fits with this idea that we're standing on an accretion disk or a point of what do they call it, between the two lines, the line between the two sort of magnetic poles is called the you might know this.
I don't know, magnets. Flux.
No, it's called not a plane of inertia, but basically you get this line between. If you can imagine the spray of a magnet, it's got the spray to the north, spray to the south, and then a line in between. And we say that we're on the line in between, and it's all magnetic between the poles. Yes, and that rocks are solidifying in line with the magnetic field that we're standing in, and our compasses work from the field. The planes and the whales, they all read the field. They're not reading a sort of magnetic core or anything like that. Of course, we discovered that if you take molten steel up to a certain point, a temperature, it loses its magnetic potential. And yet our core is meant to be so much hotter than the point at which the magnetic potential is lost from steel or iron.
What happens if you fall off the edge, though?
Well, we don't have an edge. The weird thing is that if we live on a globe, everybody's on an edge. But the truth is, the truth is that we think that it has to be enclosed, like the watch example. That if you're standing on the inside of your watch, you can't leave the watch, because there's a glass roof above you, and then there's a boundary or a surround. Okay. And after Admiral Byrd finished 15 years, he was a very celebrated naval guy in America. He had 15 years in the 1940s and 50s with 5,000 soldiers, ships and fleets and planes and stuff, and he explored for years down in Antarctica. And the year after he came back and said, I found land that no man has ever stood on, bigger than America. I found resources. You can find this video still available on YouTube. And I found resources that will last mankind a lifetime. The very next year, Russia, America, China, all the big countries signed the Antarctic Treaty. And that's never been broken in more than 70 years. They do not allow private people to travel into the South or Antarctica unless they're on a guided tour.
Yeah, because people are evil and they're going to ruin it.
Sorry? Because we would ruin it.
They're going to kill all the penguins.
We kill the penguins, yeah. Now, we've got a very greedy society. ExxonMobil and these companies, if they could get hold of fuel or resources, ores or whatever, do you think they'd really care about a few penguins? Because we destroy the Amazon. Yeah. You're part of that generation that believe we're completely wrecking the Amazon. Well, if we can wreck the Amazon, then we shouldn't care about a few penguins. And if the Earth is flat, climate change is a complete con. And that even though we have climate changes, because the climate naturally goes through hot and cold periods. We do have ice ages, perhaps. We do have hotter periods or drier periods. I accept that. And they could last thousands or hundreds of years. But the idea that man is creating that is complete poppycock. And actually the CO2, the additional CO2, which is a fragment of a fraction of a percent, is actually good for trees because trees love CO2 and they produce oxygen in return. So our trees would die. If we took CO2 out of our atmosphere, the trees would die very quickly. And then the oxygen would stop being produced.
That's true.
So climate change, we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot and paying to do so with this climate change agenda. And Oxford is one of the first cities in the country to begin trialing this 15-minute city stuff, which again is about smalling you, reducing your footprint.
I love being able to walk everywhere. It's so convenient.
It is awesome to be able to do that. Yeah. But at the same time, if you choose to go for a further drive or a further travel, that should be up to you, not me.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not stopping that. They're not
stopping that. They're just making it easier for you to...
yeah, well, we're in the early
days.
days.
For 15-minute cities.
I mean, have you heard what like the government is now talking about in terms of the next level of security and stuff like that? We will get to a point where your electric car will be limited to 200 miles a month, and if you go over that, sorry, you're not allowed to travel anymore. And if you go out of your zone, this was the proposal, this was Oxford Cities and others' proposal, because it comes out of the United Nations Agenda 2030, is that we limit people to a certain number of exits from their zone per year. Now, it's a generous amount, it's 100, So, you say, well, I could. That's probably good. A couple of times a week, no problem. I can do that, right? And I live mostly inside of my bubble. That's where we are now. In 100 years from now, it's proper zeitgeist where you're in your own glass. You can't leave your dome. You can never leave your dome unless you have, like in lockdown, permission from the doctor for some reason to leave your space. And you're allowed to go on holiday once a year. But if you have done well on the internet or whatever, and you've got lots of crypto and you want to go on holiday 3 times, no, it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, you won't be able to do that. Now, I know that's a long way off and it's kind of dystopian and so on, but that's part of, not that I'm saying I can stop it, I'm not trying to stop it. I see what's coming and I want to step out of the way of it. But I like to advise other people and say, hey, there's something coming that you probably may not like. It may seem like it's in your best interest, but if you believe, particularly like with the COVID thing, if you believe that you were saving granny by taking a vaccine, you would take it. If you believe that you were saving the planet by staying in your home and never leaving your 15-minute city, you would probably do it. And say, and you say to your neighbor, why are you going out on another Sunday drive? You shouldn't be using your polluting car again, blah, 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 blah. No, they don't want you eating meat. They don't want you living well. They don't want you drinking raw milk. Living naturally. They want you on their pharmacia. I've had a lovely conversation with you guys today.
Yeah.
Can I?
It was very interesting. I think I learned a lot, actually.
Cool. Can I give you a flyer? Did I give you one?
Yes,
I've got one.
You got it. Okay. Well, all the best.
Yeah.
Have a great life. Yeah. Have a great life. Cheers. Guys, you know that you can't prove that we went to the moon, and when it comes to water, it's always going to find a level. Can you show me a measurement, not an observation?
I think it does bend, actually.
Okay, can you show me a measurement of that?
I think if you're on a plane, you can just about see it.
Can you show me a measurement of that? See, science is measurable, right? Yes, we can theorize about seeing something, and what did we see? It's a long way off. Can we go measure it?
I think they have, though. I think I've watched videos where they've disproved some flat Earth things because you definitely can.
So you haven't measured the curvature over water?
No, but I'm not interested in proving it.
No?
So I'm an Earth scientist.
Earth scientist?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I study Earth science. Here. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
And
awesome.
so many theories about how the Earth works. Is based on a globe Earth.
Okay.
So, for example, plate tectonics, moon cycles.
Yeah.
How does any of that make sense for a flat Earth?
Okay. What if I offer you this? Okay.
How would volcanoes work? How would earthquakes work?
Let me offer you, because I only discovered this 10 years ago, but I've got some theories that I could offer to you. Now, you're coming at me with a theory, and I'm going to counter it with another theory because we're this far into the conversation. I suggest to you that it's, like Nikola Tesla said, it's all frequency and vibration. It's an electromagnetic system, like a torus, and at the center of the torus, you have what we call an accretion disk, or a layer, or an accretion layer, that is between two toruses. And that plate is what we stand on. That plate, being an electromagnetic flux, has heat beneath it and coolness above it. And that combination of heat and cool can cause flexing and buckling. So we have, across the abyssal planes, yes, we have tectonic movement. Absolutely no problem on a flat plane. Let me offer you one more thing. That the primary physics of water is that it must be contained, and when contained, will seek and find level, and that level will be parallel and to the horizontal, and it will be parallel to any other body of liquid or gas that you can contain.
So that's a plausible theory, but
that's a fact.
Completely falls apart with so much of science. So, for example, when you have earthquakes and you have seismic waves propagating through different parts of the Earth, how do you have that on a flat disk? It just wouldn't work.
Well, how those things can propagate on a
how
plate.
do you get mountain belts formed? Mountain belts. So the Himalayas. How did the Himalayas form?
Well, there are
because that's based on plate tectonics.
Well, if it's an electromagnetic thing, then these things could. I know this is hard to accept, but these things could happen instantly. So an electromagnetic plate, you could create the Grand Canyon.
So straight away it just happens. The Grand Canyon.
It could.
But
I'm
that's
offering
not,
that as
if you look at the geological record, you can see the cycle of plates moving apart, which relies on a globe.
If we look at the fact that you're extremely well educated, but you can't tell me the curvature formula for the globe, then that's
What's the curvature formula?
You don't even know that. You see, we're not even talking
about. What do you mean by a curvature formula?
Is that a known scientific term?
Yes, you can Google it. So there is and you can actually get a Google, on Google, you can get a Earth curve calculator. And it will allow you to put in your height above sea level and the distance observed. And it should tell you at that range how much curvature.
Yeah, that's probably,
Because we're on a sphere, there must be curvature.
Yeah.
And it's actually Pythagorean geometry.
Yeah, that makes
and the
sense,
number, believe it or not, this is what stopped me 10 years ago, is 8 inches per mile squared.
It's what, sorry?
8 inches per mile squared. And you can Google this in your own time.
Okay.
Now, over 10 miles, that would be 800 inches, which might explain why we're losing a ship.
8 inches per square mile?
Per mile squared, yeah.
I'd have to double check it, but...
Please do. I mean, you might come back with 7.98. You might come back with 7.98, but it's about 8 inches per mile squared.
Makes sense, yeah.
And that was what, because I grew up by the sea.
You can see the curvature on a plane, you can see it.
So what do you, is that what you think you see? Is this? Is it?
Oh yeah, that's the.
Did you? Is this what you see when you're on the plane? Because Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a very popular priest of your religion. He says that 120,000. Oh, absolutely. Well, when it's a belief, when it's belief, like Jesus walked on water.
Yeah.
Well, if water can cling to the underside of a ball, but you can't prove it, and you can't tell me how much curvature should be on that ball, then yes, it's a belief.
I've not memorized that, but
Neil deGrasse Tyson confirmed, and you can find this video on YouTube. He was talking to university students in America, and he said the Red Bull jump that Felix Baumgartner wasn't high enough to see the curve. How high did Felix Baumgartner go? 30 kilometers up?
You could see the curve on those videos.
From the fisheye lens cameras on the outside, yes, but when he jumps out of the cupola, there's a flat horizon visible from the camera behind him.
Can I just ask about so you've obviously studied this a lot. Do you have degrees in physics, geology?
Degrees?
Do you have a degree in physics?
That's a
Do you have a degree in geology?
No.
Do you have any qualifications?
But can you only learn something if someone tells you to learn?
But do you not think
is that your claim? Is that the only way someone can learn is if they go to school?
I think I'd be more likely to take someone's.
But do you not think there's so many people who've studied this for so long? But if you don't know the answer, I think it's a bit of an arrogant claim because they actually know.
Yeah, that it's a religion. I used to be in your religion, so that's why I can call it that. I was a big Darwinist. I believed in evolution. I believed in Big Bang. I believed in accretion from all of this 14 billion years ago. I believed we were going to find life on Mars up until 10 years ago. And once I came across this formula for curvature, I think Mars is a light in the sky. It's cymatics. Study the star in a jar experiment. It's mainstream science. Star in a jar experiment. We fire a frequency into a liquid and we form a cavitation, which causes a star to form. And then we look at cymatics.
What do you mean by fire a frequency? Do you mean acoustic wave or do you mean electromagnetic?
No, acoustic.
Sorry, we're all physicists.
We've both got
But we're Christians as well.
Okay, so you still don't know that water cannot be found to be curving? You know that water?
You're making that up.
But demonstrate that.
You're just saying that, but it's not true.
But you can't say, well, water is level. That's why we say sea level. That's why we build the pyramids based on water, yes? The Suez Canal is 100 miles long and level, yes? Is it not level?
We've got to go.
It's engineered level. I know it's uncomfortable, guys.
There's no convincing you.
I know it's uncomfortable.
Go and get a cup of tea.
All right, enjoy.
Why don't you do some study?
Thank you. I've done all this study.
You could share your
Thank you. I'm here at uni. I'm here at Oxford to tell you the Earth is flat, not a spinning globe. You're indoctrinated into a cult, a religion, a belief that water will cling to the underside of a sphere, while in reality, water must run downhill and then be collected and gathered in a pool, and that pool will form level. That pool will be parallel to the horizon, parallel to the horizontal. There you go.
Thank you.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Have you got any questions? Any thoughts about what I'm saying today? Because I have said Earth is not a globe, and I'm challenging people's belief that we live on a spinning rock. Do you know which direction we're spinning right now? Because we can't measure it. Einstein came up with an experiment which is now known as Airy's failure, because he put water into a telescope, and the summary was that if the Earth was spinning, it would be one way. If the stars were moving, it would give you another result. It gave us the other result, so they call it Airy's failure. The stars, as you see, are moving. The sun, as you see, is rising and moving over you. Your feet are not. The interferometer experiments they did in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the best British and French scientists of the world could not demonstrate that the Earth was traveling around the sun using interferometry. They were shooting a beam of light in one direction and at 90 degrees in the other direction, and they used that to say, well, if we're moving in this direction, then there will be a retardation of the light in the direction that we're moving, or a shortening of the distance it has to travel, and they can't prove that. And so what if it's true that you can take a hot air balloon up into the air and it's not, unless the wind is blowing, it's not going anywhere, because the Earth isn't moving and the atmosphere isn't moving at 1,000 miles an hour or whatever it is they claim we're moving at. And then there's so many other elements of the model that fail, but water is the primary go-to, because water is 20% water. And water, we know, in the bath is level. In the swimming pool is level. You can't take a laser and prove that there's a millimeter of curvature over an Olympic swimming pool or a lake. And the bigger the lake, it doesn't matter. People say, well, I can't see the other side. Well, now we've got a lot of water and occlusion and the weakness of the human eye that we can't see 10 miles or 20 miles or 30 miles. But with a powerful camera on a clear day, you can stand in France and see the White Cliffs of Dover. All of them. That's 20 odd miles away. And according to the Pythagorean formula, that should be under 300 feet of curvature on the globe. That's not there. The curvature doesn't exist but in our minds. And we've seen enough Disney growing up and other things to make us believe that yes, we can fly off of this sphere or this ball and fly back in again when we want to. Well,
so no moon landing either.
No moon
Definitely
landing.
not.
Definitely not. Definitely not. The moon landing, I used to believe in it. Honestly, I did. But now when the lenses come off, you go, yeah, okay, I'm not making excuses for that. There are so many elements that you go, okay, even if you don't believe Stanley Kubrick filmed it, there are so many elements that show you it's in a stage. And when you look at the first spacewalks that the Russians...
the other planets?
I'll answer that. So when you look at the first spacewalks, they last, but they have their own course. They're on their own. They on a flat Earth model, they actually inscribe these sort of flower of life patterns as they go retrograde in and come back out again and so on. So those are lights. Well, I mean, they look like star in a jar. You might have heard me say it. The star in a jar experiment is the one where they take the frequency and they fire it into a liquid. Thanks, bro. The star in a jar experiment is where they fire a frequency into a liquid and it causes cavitation. You must have seen this one on the this documentary channel. And they can create a star in a jar. They call it that. And when you look at that and you see the way that the light is shimmering, well, that's what I see when I look at a powerful camera at the lights. Is that they're doing what is called cymatics, or a frequency in a medium. So a frequency.
So it's just light.
Just light, or rather what we see is just light, but it may be what's sitting behind, what's causing the light is another conversation. Just in the same way as if I took into the jungle people who've never been to a school or seen anything and I took them the star in a jar experiment, they would be shocked. They'd be, well, that's just some kind of magic, because they wouldn't see the invisible sound that was coming.
10 years later, we're in the moon.
So are there any documentaries that you would recommend to watch?
Right, so if you go to flatearthdays.com, on that website.
I'm not sure the next one is. Can I know about the flat world?
Yeah.
Because I heard from school that it was a globe.
Yeah, so did I, man. I went to school, learned it was a globe, believed it. I have children who are older than you, and they believed that it was a globe too. I taught them all of that stuff. And then 10 years ago, I came across the formula for curvature of the globe. Oh. And when you apply that formula for curvature, you go, damn, man, 10 miles, 20 miles, there's so much curvature there. I shouldn't be able to see on a clear day the beach on the other side from 20 miles away. That should be invisible to me over the curve. Because it's 8 inches per mile squared. They don't teach you this at school, but if you're smart enough at maths, you go, hold on, miss, hold on. That means at 100 miles, there is like 80,000 feet of curvature. Are you kidding me? Because the Americans have got a gun, they call it a rail gun, and they can shoot at Mark 15. It's a magnet gun. They can shoot it from one ship to another ship. This is ship to ship, 100 miles.
100 miles?
Yeah, 100 miles. That's on, they put that on TV. That's not me making that up. That they can shoot 100 miles. They can see and shoot 100 miles. That's impossible around a curve. It has to be line of sight.
If you look at that photo, so at 5 feet, it says 121,000.
Yeah. The only difference is this distance is a few miles. This distance could be 100, 200 miles. But it's always flat. So unless you use a fisheye lens, which I often do.
Yeah, 275 miles.
Yeah, that's the world record. Yeah, that's the Guinness World Record photo. So and other guys have done that are not claimed to win world record photos, but guys have taken, in the last few years since Flat Earth came out, they've taken powerful cameras up into locations, like a guy in Wales recently took a photo of 7 of the Alps mountains, which are 700 miles away. Impossible on the globe.
But is this going on your YouTube, is it?
Yeah. You want a flyer?
Pardon? A flyer? I'll take a flyer. Okay, I will.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck, guys. Well, you know what? What's on the flyer is what I want you to know. Why are they lying? It takes you a while to work out that you've been lied to, but when you have, why? The question is why. Well, this is the answer to that question. All right? Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
All right, cheers, man.
Sorry, Angels of Light. He's an Australian guy.
Oh, okay.
And
Actually, quite interesting. People are quite interested today, don't you think?
Earth is flat, not a spinning rock in space. Hi guys.
Hi.
I welcome any questions that you have on my flyer here today. This is how water works in reality, eh? It's always going to find level. These are open tubes here, and the water, you can pour it in one cup and it'll kind of keep going up level always. But you cannot get the water to stick in the cup on that side, on the side of the ball. But we're told because gravity, it will work.
Well, but why do you support this theory? What is your purpose?
Well, because I don't want to be lied to, and I don't want humanity to be lied to about who we are and where we are. But it's not a theory.
But you are just ignoring the science.
I'm bringing science because we can't measure curvature of water. You see, the water bending over the surface, you've never measured that.
No, there are a lot of theories that prove that...
Theories are not measurements. Theories are ideas. Theories are theology,
evidence,
like religion.
okay, let's say evidence.
Okay, so bring it. Well, I've been doing this for 10 years, bro. No one can bring me evidence, and we've done experiments with the lasers where we can see. Do you know the Americans have got a gun called a rail gun? It shoots Mark 15, it's a magnet gun, and they can shoot a target, they admit, 100 miles away over water. One ship to another ship. There is no bending. Suez Canal, no bending. It's level 120 miles. No. Water is always level.
I do respect you, but no.
You think water is curving?
Yeah.
But it can't be proven to be curving. That's the thing. We think when we go to the beach, we see the ship go away. But actually, when we take the powerful camera, we can still see the ship, even though we thought it went away.
What about other planets?
They're lights in the sky.
Are those flat as well?
Lights.
Lights as well? There are no planets?
Rocks don't float. Rocks don't float. And gas doesn't stay together. Gas expands into the available space.
What about space?
Fake.
Fake?
This is space, bro. Between you and me is space. But out there is unknown. Water maybe, but not vacuum.
You're just wasting your time.
Have you studied science?
Yeah.
Thermodynamics?
Yeah.
Second law?
Yeah.
Second law says that if you want pressure, must contain it. Yes, otherwise entropy, or otherwise it's going to dissipate. Yes, you can't have deodorant, you can't have
what about
gas.
Satellites?
Hold on.
Where
hold
are
on.
flying?
Hold on.
The rockets.
Hold on. You can't have pressure unless you contain, like in your tire. Your car tire must be contained. You puncture it, equalization, yes? So why no equalization into the vacuum of space? If we have no container, no roof. If you're in an airplane, you're sealed. But you take off the roof, you're in trouble.
Okay, what is the purpose that scientists...
But satellites, I'll offer you, no, because you're not Christian, right? You're not Christian.
I'm not Christian.
Okay, but you accept that there are people who believe in Christianity so much, they teach that to their children, even though you disagree. Yes? Yes. So, no, so it doesn't, the fact is that people teach stuff that they believe in. So the science could be stuff that people believe in, and they believe in gravity, yes. They believe in relativity, and they accept these theories, and they say because of that, now we've got planets, gas coalescing under its own weight, fires burning in a vacuum for billions of years, and us flying around these things because of a theory, not because of what we can test. But biblically, or in the Quran, it says that the earth has a roof, it has a cover, and it says that the sun and the moon are small lights inside the system, like inside the stadium. We're not outside.
All of your arguments are based on the religious...
No, I'm not a religious man. I'm not a religious
I'm not
man.
either.
But I offer that because even in the old books, people knew enough about the earth 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, not to say that the earth is anything but not moving. Earth is
I do respect you, but I don't agree with you.
Shake my hand. You have a good life.
Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Go well, bro. Go well. Earth is flat about it. The water runs off the ball. It settles on the pitch. Think about it. Gravity is a hoax. Gravity is density expressing itself in a medium.
Let's talk about what your...
Let's talk about it then. You're on the alcohol. That's not good for you, man.
I know.
Alcohol. We shouldn't... It's what they call it in... it comes, the word comes from...
marula?
Amarula?
Amarula.
Yeah. Because
I'm
South
like an
African.
elephant taking my marula fruit, you know? Let the elephants have their marula apples.
All
You know,
right,
I'm an elephant
all right,
with
all
my
right.
marula apples. Give me a break.
Yeah. So you want to talk about the globe? Or
I'm interested in...
Earth is flat, not a spinning rock in space. You've been fooled?
Oh, you're saying the Earth is flat? You're one of those people.
Yes,
One of
those people. Yes, that's right. Someone who doesn't believe in the religion of heliocentrism. Yes, that's me.
Nick on, my friend. He's walking.
You bring your friends here. We can have a little
Nick,
chat.
Come on. They
Hey,
believe
man.
the Earth is flat, and they're coming to tell us the Earth is flat.
Well, no, I was more coming to tell you that the Earth is not a globe. There is a distinction because flat Earth has a certain bias. You know, people like conspiracy theory. You know, if you say you're a conspiracy theorist, people say, "Oh, that's not clever."
How does GPS work?
Ground positioning system.
Yeah.
We use the triangulation from tower to tower. We do have some satellites that are floating on, like Google Loon project. You might remember that one. To the sky, and they can hang transmitters, receivers, things like that on them, even with solar arrays.
Am I being filmed, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm on YouTube Live.
YouTube Live?
Yeah.
How many people are watching me?
I don't know.
Okay. Hello to the 30
We used to
people
have a few more, but
watching
YouTube
me.
took my channel away because they didn't like me talking about COVID.
Yeah, I know. I mean, am I going to believe you after this?
No,
Probably not.
hopefully not.
But like, I still find you interesting that you have enough, you know, shtick, as they say in Judaism, to come out here with a thing. You're presenting well. You're an attractive man.
Thank you.
Lovely.
My wife. Yeah.
It's your wife, and you care about this.
Yeah, I have two. We have two children who we
Whether I
raised to
think you're right or
university.
wrong, the fact that you
and I
care
don't.
is interesting.
Thank you. I don't appreciate. I don't want to change anyone's mind. Just to say, hey, there's a door here. I'm offering you to go in if you want to. Mind the bus.
You can run me over. It's okay.
So yeah, we think that it matters. Truth matters, and so we come out when we can and get the opportunity to come out and tell people, hey, what
would matter? So okay, so say you guys were right, and you have all your lamp oil and your refraction, your arguments, and this and that, and tectonic plates, whatever you want to go on about, or your view of mathematics. You know, which I study at Oxford University, amongst other things.
Awesome.
You know, I'm a PhD student.
Fantastic. Well,
a lot of stuff.
Then you should have been taught
And
this one.
A lot of philosophy too.
Okay.
You know,
This is a very
what is?
This is a very philosophical.
Sure. Who's your favorite philosopher?
I
These
say
guys
Nietzsche,
think
maybe probably
Nietzsche.
more
not
closely.
Nietzsche, it's
yeah,
Nietzsche.
yeah.
The genealogy of morality.
Yeah. So, but I'm.
So okay.
I'm
say
not
the
as,
Earth was
perhaps
flat.
as well read
Who
as an
cares?
Oxford guy. But let me say this: that if you studied maths, they should have told you what is the formula for the curvature. It's Pythagorean.
I didn't do mechanics.
Over a globe.
I didn't do mechanics.
Right. Okay.
I'm not like applied mathematician.
Okay. Well, you might find this interesting. It's not deep maths because they say that the curvature formula from the point of you standing on the beach is 8 inches per mile squared.
You're not interested?
No.
He's not interested.
He has laundry to do. He's busy. He's doing laundry. You know.
That's all right. Yeah. So why does it matter? Well, this is why.
So if the Earth was indeed
This is
not
why.
a globe, so do you think the Earth is flat?
We think more electromagnetic. So rather than being flat, it's like the Big Apple, but instead of being on the skin, we're in the center of the core. Yeah? Can you wrap your mind around that?
What's the center of the core?
The core of the apple is where the seeds are.
Sure.
So imagine that that's our
Are you
continents.
religious?
No. But imagine that's our continents. We visited Israel actually. Many years ago, more than 20, 25, 30 years ago. But so
I want to think. Can I have a leaf of yours?
of course, think of it not that we're on the outside of a sphere, but that we're on the inside of an electromagnetic torus or sphere.
A torus is a square. If you actually take a piece of paper, square paper, you wrap it over, and then you connect both sides.
Okay.
It becomes a torus.
Okay.
It's
I got no
basic
issue.
topological
Yeah,
notion.
I got no issue with that. But for me, where we are is on a plane within the torus. So if I lay the apple on its side.
So you're like a part of the torus. Okay.
So inside the torus, you have when they take a neodymium magnet and they put it over a ferrofluid, they get what they call this. And here's an experiment for you to go and look up if you want to. It's called the primer field experiments that were done by David LaPointe from 2008 onwards.
There's very little you could say to change my mind. Well, I'm more interested. And, science has its limits. I appreciate that. What's the existential reason?
Because you are big
truth.
That's a great question.
Is it truth that you care about?
Truth and the truth about who we are.
Why
we
does the
are.
shape of the planet affect who we are?
Well, because it's a control mechanism, just like the borders of our
Who's
countries.
controlling? The Jews and the Rothschild crap, or
Well,
I'm
not really.
NASA and trying to make does it make you feel more important that the world?
Let's say I lived in your village, right? And I found out that.
It's my village.
Okay. I lived in your village and I found out that someone was poisoning the water in your village water well.
DuPont has done that with PFAs.
And, okay, so we distill our drinking water, but we know that. So now I go around to people and say, hey, you should distill your drinking water because they're poisoning. Most people will say, you know what, I'm happy with the council pop, I'll carry on drinking the tap water. That's fine, but at least I've done my part and I've stood up and said, hey, there's something to pay attention to here.
But it's not the same, if you have poison drinking water, that's like dangerous and it may cause cancer.
Yeah.
Here, okay, the Earth is a globe or not. Who cares?
What if we're going to go spiritual right now?
Yeah, I want to take you to the
So let me give you my theory, right? That when we're on a limited material rock, because I think actually it's more energetic than we realize. We're so stuck in our materialist lives that we think everything is solid, but spiritual is much more energetic, right? So for me, if we're stuck on this rock, that one we're like clinging to the outside and relying on gravity to
get quicker to the point. I don't know.
Thank you.
What I'm saying is that the globe gives you limitation, and I think it's a spiritual being.
You go to space.
Good. Yeah, you had a few
Have you?
conversations. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I haven't been myself, but I know.
And how many people go to space?
Well, I don't count the number of people.
Potentially, how many people have gone to space?
40.
I don't believe in space, but 40. So we can go to space then. I don't believe this.
The vacuum of space is very much for us because thermodynamics.
I can go watch your stuff.
Yeah, thermodynamics says that we must be contained.
It's
on there.
So I'll go watch it, and maybe I'll give you an email.
I'd love to hear. What's your name?
Oliver, followed by a very Jewish name, Goldstein.
Okay.
Mr. Hitler killed my ancestors.
I think that we come from South Africa, in which apartheid.
Yeah, a lot of Lithuanian Jews there.
Right.
I don't know where you're from. Cape Town, Johannesburg.
Cape Town, Durban. But Joburg's quite popular for the Jewish community. My sister's married to a Jewish man in Johannesburg, by the way. So, I think that just my example is one that's personal to me, so it's not offensive to anyone else. And that is that as a white South African, I was propagandized by the establishment towards a certain agenda. We all understand that, yeah? So, is it not possible that any group
I don't understand the existential reason.
Okay. So let me give you the example. I believe that what the Christ they talk about in Christianity is within you. That we are all the expression of God. The Most High. God. Whatever you want to call it.
How does the earth being
because just like it's Hebrew in the Hebrew Bible, it talks about a firmament, it talks about an enclosed system, it talks about the Sheol, the great deep. These are all elements of the Hebrew belief, yeah? And so, and if you look at the images that the Hebrew scholars drew of that time, they're drawing an enclosed snow globe. They're drawing an enclosed system in which the sun and the moon and all the things, like it says in Genesis, sun and the moon are lights that come on day 4. Not as quite, science tells you that it came before the sun.
Where are you from again? You're a student Greece.
But I used to work in a shop nearby where you was coming.
In Vibrary?
Yeah, in Glastonbury.
Wait, which one? 100%?
No, yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember you. Do you have Andy? Andy Fidey?
Yeah, no. I just had to go back in Greece for some personal business. The manager in another place.
Yeah, I still went to 100% the other day.
It's a nice place.
Yeah.
So,
can I ask
enjoying
you
all
something?
I have to go with my friends.
But so I think that we are the divine, and what they want to do is to demean God by demeaning the creation, and therefore you as creator essence or expression of creator.
Right.
So it's a diminution of the creator, and every religion.
It's theological.
There's few people on earth today that have escaped this piece of propaganda. That we are less than God intended us to be. All the best. Go well,
right.
Dave. Cheers.
Can you not film me, but just?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
What is it called? the Earth is not globe, but something else, or that the Earth is not globe and it's something which is flat?
Okay, so I think the Earth is an electromagnetic system. It could be a simulation of something, it's not a rock. It's not a physical thing. It's like Nikola Tesla said.
It's not a rock. It's not a rock for sure. Like the Earth, it's round, doesn't mean it's a rock.
No.
Obviously.
Yeah. No, but don't think in terms of water and stone and sand and oil and steel. Think in terms of vibration, like Nikola Tesla.
Nice time. Yeah. Like in reality, what's happening? Like nice time. Yeah. Like in reality, what's happening? Like what do you?
Well, I think it's okay. So if we're talking
electromagnetic field comes from something. The electromagnetic flux create that.
Yeah. So we believe, I believe that we're on an electromagnetic plate, and we have a roof on our head. We can't get through it. We've only drilled 7 miles.
7-8 miles. That's really road. We have the deepest parts of the ocean that are like around 7,000 meters. 7 kilometers. About 7
No,
miles.
that's
All right.
about, I think maybe 10 kilometers. If we go to to the Mariana Trench.
There you go, 10 kilometers.
But we've only drilled. Our drills cannot take us below 7 miles. The Russia Polar Super Deep is the deepest humanity has ever drilled, 7 miles.
That's because our humanity has a cap. Like,
yeah, we can't go through. All I'm saying is
could we drill that? Could we drill back in the 9? No, let's go even further. The 1400s. Could we drill that? So that means that back in the 1400s, people believed something else. Because we couldn't.
Yeah, but so we've still, if we've only scratched the crust of the globe, we can't prove the stories about what's beneath, like it's iron, molten core, 3,000 miles beneath the sea.
That works vice versa. That works vice versa. Like, because you can't prove it's not a globe. Doesn't mean it's.
No. We can't prove it's a globe. What it is.
We can't prove it.
But we have to do it by using NASA pictures and stuff.
No, we can. It's not NASA. NASA is an American. So I will tell you, NASA is one international station, but it's American. You have so many. You have the Chinese, Russian, European, Indian. You have so many. Why are we talking about NASA?
The space station is shared by Russia and.
That's one station. No, the space is not controlled by someone. The whole ideology of space and going first to the moon was to who will control the space.
So what if I said I didn't trust government?
None of them.
Why would you trust this one and not another one?
No, because that's what I'm trying to see. Like, you don't trust specifically the NASA government, like the American one,
or the Russian,
or the
Chinese, or the
Indian, none of them.
Or the European space
Because all of them are in the same.
Once you go into that club, yes. At the
So,
very top end,
do you understand how many people work in one NASA?
you know how many people work for Sainsbury's?
No.
Sainsbury's is.
No, I know, but you
Millions of people, thousands of people who work, only 1 or 2 know exactly what the boardroom is.
That's completely different, because in order to make it rocket ship, and in order to analyze the data and so forth, there are so many people work into one specific field. So just for the math, for the rocket to go somewhere, like 20 people working there. So there's 20 people making a specific part for the. So
it's segmentation. So
there's
you make
so
a
many
part,
people
I
work.
make a part, she makes a part.
There you go. So
and
all
then
of those
somebody else
people,
puts them together.
all of those people are in the same.
Yeah, but they don't have to be making parts. People
But
are making parts for
that's
things.
just one aspect.
So I'll give you like satellites are a good example of that. So universities make things that NASA sends up in rockets or SpaceX sends up in rockets for them. What happens is that you have to give all the schematics over to NASA before they will take the project on. And then you will hand it over, you will build it, you and your university can build it, and then you will send it off in the post to NASA and they will receive it. and then they will say, all right, on the next month it's going to go up in the rocket, and on the next day you will start to get a feed from your thing. So they could I could create that in the back room and give you the data set that you're wanting, or what we know that they do, and we've got evidence of this, is that they put satellites on helium balloons, and they fly these things up to 200,000 feet. And they'll hold them there for a year.
Yeah, I know. That's something that we made up in the Cold War, so we can spy people. The air balloon is something we made it in the Cold War.
In the 50s, yes.
Yes,
they were
doing
that.
So.
And the technology has gotten so much better, and NASA is the biggest buyer of helium.
When we're talking about NASA,
buys more helium than anyone else in the world.
But why NASA? Why are you so intrigued with NASA?
Because NASA is like the sort of first one. It's
not. NASA was the first one to actually say that went to the moon. But you had the Russians from the other side. Yeah. Same as the Chinese too.
When you look at the Russian space war, Yuri Gagarin and all of that stuff. When you look at that now with the 2021 guys, you can see that it's fake. You can see that
the Russians.
They're all faking it. And the good news is that means that the Russians truly are friends when they go to war with each other. They're not really at war with each other. They want to keep you at war with me.
You know, the fascinating thing that now you can actually go outside the space. There's like programs that can actually take you there.
You mean like Jeff Bezos,
there's
Amazon?
So many more. That
you know how high they go? They go
there's
100
so many
kilometers
more.
high.
That's so many. There's so much more.
60 years ago, they went 200,000 kilometers to the 400,000 kilometers to the moon. But today they can't do that.
That's for you. You're not getting up on a rocket ship and going to the moon. You're going just below the stratosphere so you can see the space, which you say it doesn't exist. So why wouldn't you try? So if your ideology can be disproved.
If you were going to space, right, would you test the spacesuit in a vacuum chamber? Would you go, does the space work? I've got you a new spacesuit for you, made for you. Let's go and test it. And make sure it works. We've never done that. Try and find evidence of that. For yourself. People going in a vacuum chamber in a spacesuit. On the ground, not in space where they could do it on TV. So on the ground, there's one video that exists on the internet, and the man got partial vacuum, and his tongue started to boil, and he fell over and passed out, and the doctors just revived him in time before he died. The video is still available. That's the only time they put a man in a partial vacuum. So if you're going in a vacuum in space, then you want to make sure your suit works. They've never done that. So why don't we stick with the simple stuff like water? You know, water, the drink in your cup, even though you're holding the cup at an angle, the water is climbing parallel to the sea. The water in your cup is parallel to the sea, and you can go and take it down to the beach, keep it at that angle, and prove it to yourself. Every body of water, is parallel to the sea. No matter how big. Bilikal in Russia, that big Baikal Russia lake, it's 300, 400, 500 miles long. It freezes over perfectly level for ice skating every winter.
I'm really, because this has been going for sort of like Mongolia, which is sparsely populated, and in China, which is
Well, so look into nature for the answer. Okay. So look at nature for the answer. If you imagine that we live inside of an orange, if the whole universe is one orange, and at the center of the orange is the seeds, and that's what we call Earth. And at the inside of the fruit, but not outside of the skin, you've got the stars, you've got the sun. Everything is inside of the apple or the orange. Nothing is out. We cannot get outside the orange. And we cannot travel out there, we cannot see lights out there or anything. What we think is outside of the orange would be water, but we don't know for sure. And that's from observations of how the stars look and what we see when we see rockets. There's some rocket videos of rockets hitting the roof. And the Russians and the Americans in the 1950s did Operation Fishbowl. If you research that for 4 years, they shot atomic weapons into the roof of the South Africa. I went to a war in Angola.
When?
1987.
So you met pilots?
Yeah.
Met pilots?
I may not have met any F-16, but I saw an interview with an ex-F-16 guy. Yeah, so I've got friends who are flat earthers who are international long-haul flight pilots, and they say we taught to fly the earth as though it's not moving. and that it's flat. That's the way that we're taught to fly. You don't need to think about curvature. You don't need to think about going around down to Africa or anything. You don't have to think about that. You fly flat and level the whole flight for 10 hours, 12 hours. You don't make curvature, and you don't have to allow for the ball spinning underneath you. None of that. Yeah.
Was nice to meet you.
All the best, guys. Yeah.
The thing is, within the community, not everyone's got exactly the same views, the same as in anything. Everyone's got their own individual take on. But the bottom line is,
water's going to find level.
Water's flat and it finds a level that we can't argue with.
The observation that we see a ship going away is that it's an observation. Going over. But if you say science requires measurement, and I pulled this off Oxford language, science is a systematic
I know, I
structure,
saw that.
observation and experimentation. This is an important element. If I can't experiment and test and measure, then it's still a theory. So if I'm demanding that my theory is correct, then I should go out and test it. Now I've gone out. Yes, and we find that we can make observations like this one here. This is the Guinness World Records. This is the longest line of sight shot, 400 kilometers. And we should not be able to see there should be 3 miles of curvature according to the formula, the Pythagorean maths that says there's curvature on the globe. Well, why are we seeing 400 kilometers? Why are the guys taking an infrared camera and seeing up to 1,000 miles, where they can see mountains in the distance at 1,000 miles with infrared? Because it cuts through the atmosphere, it cuts through the water. So they're seeing the heat of it. And so if we can make
I'd
these
rather
observations...
not be on camera if I want. Okay, I'll just say.
So we see these long distance observations if we really allow ourselves to. And we say, well, then where's the curvature? Because once we're not taught in school, when you're young enough to think about it, they're not telling us what is the formula for curvature, which is 8 inches per mile squared, according to Google, according to the mainstream. So if you apply that 8 inches per mile squared, you start to say, hey, at 10 miles, that's 800. Things with the inverse square law will shrink by half when we double the distance away from it, yes? So it doesn't matter how tall the object is, eventually it will shrink to being very small. But with atmospheric occlusion, which is the moisture in the atmosphere, we know that that's also going to limit significantly, even on a clear day, even over acknowledged flats of, say, South America. They've got these like wild flats out there. What are they called? But once you settle onto the ground, you can only see 3 kilometers from there. But whilst you're up in the plane, over the Mediterranean, you can see ships for 100 kilometers all the way around you on what looks like a flat body of water. And that was what stopped me 10 years ago. I believed the moon landings and everything, but when I saw that formula, because I love maths and I grew up by the sea, and when I saw that formula, I'm like, hang on a minute, I've seen things too far away. And now we've seen people do experiments with 40-mile laser shots, beach to beach. People have taken photographs of things 50 miles, 60 miles, 400 kilometers away. And you go, well, where's the curve? And we know the physics of water is at the small scale level. And then I say to people, well, if it's at the small scale level, or even with gases settle in a container. They're going to settle in strata.
I mean, I was about to mention gravity, but you've already got.
Yeah, so everything.
Got a thing for that.
Yeah, everything settles in strata. That's a well-known experiment where you put the different liquids in a test tube and you can float different things at different levels because the density of the thing is going to make it buoyant or less buoyant.
But none of them are flying, so.
Not in that context, but if I used a helium balloon, you know that would fly. If I forced a football under the water, that's obviously going to seek equilibrium and it's going to come to balance. But the helium balloon will keep going up. The apple will only fall as far as the swimming pool, and there it will float. Because now it's in a place where it's displacing more mass than it weighs.
I mean, it's interesting, but yeah.
So, gravity the effects we see of things going up and down can primarily be explained by the displacement. So a ball of steel weighs a ton, sinks through the water. Shape it into a boat, it floats. A ball of steel weighs a ton, float it on a mercury pool, it floats. Because why? It's lighter than the medium it's displacing. And when we go in a swimming pool, we don't weigh what we weigh here in this air. Because we are now displacing, that displacement is now giving us buoyancy. So everything works on a state of buoyancy. In air, we are heavier, whilst the fish is not. In water, it's going to, in air, it's going to struggle, and in water, it's going to be in a perfect buoyancy, and it's going to be fine.
I mean, yeah, I can.
You can get that. So for us, gravity.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
but I can understand why you would.
Yeah. So, well, gravity for us is one of the kind of explanations, theories.
I don't really feel thoroughly engaged by this, so I don't feel like I.
You don't. Yeah, I'm not going to convince you, right?
No.
And it took me
totally
months.
understand.
Everything. But we do need an enclosure.
Well,
To have
you
gas
seem
pressure, we
very
need an
set
enclosure.
in your opinion, so.
Yeah, but aren't we? Like if I said to a religious person, right? To a religious person, listen, Jesus didn't necessarily have to have walked on water. They go, of course he did.
I don't think every religious person would say yes, they did. That depends.
No, on their particular belief system. So the idea that I'm saying to you, you cannot walk underneath a ball and not off it, and water cannot coalesce in ponds under a globe, is the belief that you have, which we all had. And I'm saying, sorry, that's not. It doesn't.
So would you say yours isn't a belief either? Like yours is a fact.
The fact that water is level when at rest is a fact. That's why we say water level and sea level. That's why every mountain on Earth is given the same height as using mean sea level above that mean sea level.
But so what you're saying is mine. I've got a religion according to
A belief.
you.
Yes.
A belief,
Yes,
and
yes,
so do you.
yes. Which part of mine is a belief?
That the Earth is flat.
No, that the water is level. I mean, we have topography. Look here, I've got all of North America here. That's 3,000 miles shrunken into this A4 size, yes? And we got New York and California. We have the same sea level. We can go on a road trip and go up and down, up and down, up and down, but we'll go up and come down just as much to come up the other side. The sea level on both sides of America is pretty much the same within a few inches. And that's USGS acknowledgement. So there is only one sea level. The same is true with England. I'll go up 300 meters to the middle and then come down 300 meters to Wales if I'm traveling across.
I don't think I'm the person that's going to have their mind changed.
I'm not changing. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to say that there are some things that we've taken as real or accepted as being true, but they are actually theoretical. And what I would say to a religious person is what you read in the Bible might be interpreted in a different way. And so what we read in our science books can be interpreted in a different way. I've studied electromagnetic quantum physics, mind your back. I've studied quantum physics, and I recognize that we could be inside an electromagnetic torus. And that everything that I've explained, everything I observe in the world works within an electromagnetic system, but it needs a plate. Between the two poles of the magnet, you have a flat plate. And it's in that plate that we exist, that we live. But I don't need to convince anyone. I'm just here to say, hey, everything we've been taught isn't necessarily true. And the question then people come back to why? Why the lie? Why would they lie to us? Well, I believe that because whatever God is exists within you, that you are the expression of a creator, that you are the divine having
and
a
that
material.
links to flat Earth.
Because the flat Earth was created. The flat Earth is like the biblical version of the Hebrews and everyone, and the Incas, all ancient cultures said we live with a mother, we live inside of a great mother. There is a dome or a belly that we live inside of. A firmament, they call it in the Bible. Or and thermodynamics is...
Well, I'm not religious either, so that means nothing.
No,
to me.
I know, but all the Incas and all the Egyptians, all those cultures said that we live on a plate with a roof over it, to keep it simple. All ancient cultures, long before religion existed, said that. And so when we study electromagnetics, or the sort of toroidal idea, then yes, we could work like that. And in nature, what we observe is that everything that's living has a covering, a skin, a peel, a bark, a shell. Name me one thing that's alive without a covering. You cannot. I say that our Earth has a covering. It's a living thing. It has a peel. It has a shell, if you like, the universal cosmic egg. And we live inside of that. And all the lights that we see that we believe are light years away are in fact within our environment. They are miles away. They are close to us. And we cannot get out. We believe that the Kármán line that they describe in science is actually the physical barrier that stops us from getting out. And there was a rocket sent up by Red Bull, I believe, called the Go Fast rocket, and it fires up, and they've got a camera pointing down and a camera pointing up. And you see it spiraling up for about 2 minutes, and then it hits something and stops. We've seen other rockets that appear to be scraping over the roof. And then we find out in the 1950s, the Americans and the Russians did Operation Fishbowl, in which they spent 4 years firing big bombs. They said atom bombs, but they were firing big bombs up into the roof of the sky, into the roof of the world. And when you see that footage, it looks like it's splashing against something. So yeah, thermodynamics. It requires for there to be an enclosure. You cannot have pressure without an enclosure.
Yes. I'll let you get on with the day. Thanks.
You have a great life.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.
Terra plana. Terra plana.
Terra plana. Yeah.
I disagree strongly, but
That's okay.
I appreciate
I appreciate your feedback. That's fine.
You'll have to apologise if you're watching. It's been a bit
Patchy. I know, I can't. Oh man, it's mind your back.
It's not just you, it's a bad signal.
Yeah,
It's a bad signal.
I've supposedly got 4G, 5G, whatever.
Yeah, some guys said the reception is fine.
Yeah, it's been difficult.
So it's not just you.
They know you're here.
I think maybe they in city centres they are scrambling, some scrambling.
Yeah, they reduce the bandwidth.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Earth is flat. Earth is flat, not a spinning rock in space. NASA is Disney for adults. NASA is Disney for adults. It's all made up, pseudoscience, CGI. Water is always going to sit level. You cannot walk underneath a globe. You do not evolve from monkeys. We are created perfect by a creator. You are the expression of the creator.
Flat lives matter.
Because this Earth is flat, we are all in this prison together. It's all black, white.
I don't believe in flat Earth. I believe in like something.
Spherical. Yeah, with water. That's what we were all taught. I believed that too for 45 years in my life. And then I discovered that there's a formula for curvature. If you live on a globe, then there has to be an immeasurable amount of bending. So if you try and measure that, everyone will say, oh, you can't really measure it, it's hard to measure. Well, then I started trying to measure it. I'm like, damn, I can see 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles. I can see things, beaches from that distance with a powerful camera. How can I see that if there is this formula, this amount of curvature in water? So we say sea level. The reason that the level, water when it rests is level. It's flat. You can build from it. Absolutely. And so it doesn't matter if the Suez Canal is 120 miles long and all level. At what point is the Earth curved? We can't measure it, and science demands measurement. You got a question? You got a question? We can't measure the curvature, and when you were this old, your science teacher said you're too small to feel that the Earth is spinning, but trust me, it's spinning. She didn't tell you it's spinning at faster than the speed of sound, but it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour according to the theory. We can't feel any, we can't measure it. Einstein said we can't measure the Earth moving. So what if the Earth is not moving? Just like your senses tell you, but when you were 6, teacher said, no, don't trust your senses. And if I spin a bucket of water over my head with a string and a rope and a bucket, that proves gravity. I used to say to my science teacher when I was 10 years old, but hold on, you've got a bucket and string. Gravity is just a theory, it's nothing physical. So how is that going to hold water to the outside of the bucket while you're spinning it? It can't. It needs to be contained. Water must be contained. Water must be contained. And so when they say to you, oh, if you've looked at flat Earth, they say, oh, why don't you fall off the edge? Why doesn't the water fall off the edge? Whatever. That's what we were taught to believe when we were 7, 8 years old. Oh, yeah, they used to believe that you could say, but you might sail off the edge. Well, we say that Earth has to be contained, so that we're inside of something that we can't leave and that the water can't get out of. So imagine I shrunk the Earth down to a lake and put a huge glass roof over the top of it. Yeah, like the Simpsons did, and put a big glass roof over the top. Now, I could create a biome or an environment where I put some wind in, some fresh water every now and again. I could create an environment that was perfect for you to live in. But if I said, hold on a minute, I'm going to create a ball, it's going to have some sort of magical power that's going to allow you to walk underneath and the river to flow up the other side, back up the side of it. You'll never feel it, you'll never know it. But I'm going to create it. You'd say, no, that's not really real. But I can imagine you creating me this flat world where I can walk around. It's got hills, it's got mountains, but the water at the sea is the same level. The water in the lake is at the same parallel to the sea. Even though it's at a different level, it's parallel to the sea. And the next lake up the mountain is parallel. Every body of water, your cup in the glass, even if you hold the cup this way, it's going to take that same parallel. You can go down to the beach, take your water bottle and put it here and go, look how much this is level and that's all level beyond me. It doesn't matter how big your water bottle is, it could be a mile long. You get the same result. It's going to be level when it rests. And that level is parallel. This is key. It's parallel to that. So like I got in this graphic here, on the left-hand side, I've got a cut through of America on the second left image there. That's all of America, from the Rockies on the California side all the way to the East Coast, right? That's going one sea level to the other sea level, up, down, up, down, up, down, but it comes back to the same sea level at the end. There's no curvature. It's a mind fuck. But here's the thing, right? If this is true, that means your education was mind control from the very beginning. That means that the BBC is part of the military industrial complex that controls your mind. Why I tell people that this matters is because I think that we are the expression of God. Whatever God is, I don't know what the name for that is, but we are the expression of it, and this is our world. But our world has been stolen, such that we will, for generations, such that we will give away our sovereignty and our divinity and say, yes, government can tell me what to do. They made you wear masks a few years ago, right? Remember that? They made you wear masks, even if you didn't want to. Some people were forced to wear masks. That means that you're not your own master. It means that someone else is your master. You know? And then we have to be fearful of these lot and what have you, and that, you know. But as long as you don't, the golden rule of do no harm applies in this world. So we shouldn't go around doing anyone no harm. That's the golden rule. But you are the temple of God, and you should take care of yourself, knowing that you are the temple of God. And then when you leave this body, you take back with you what you collected while you were here, in that sense. So did you become like this light that was beautiful, or do you become this darkness that was crushed, gnarled, damaged, messed up by a system that intended to do that to you? That's my theory. Do you want to? I'll give you one as well. All the best, guys. You too. Cheers. Look at you out on the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice girl, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not just on the internet
Earth
anymore.
is flat, opposite.
Nice being around.
You can't prove that water. You can't measure water curvature. You can't measure it, and science demands measurement. Otherwise, it's belief. And belief is only for religious people. Remember. You scientists aren't religious, are you? But you are in a belief system. Water is always going to see confined levels. Earth is flat. NASA is Disney for adults. NASA is mostly CGI and green screen and a swimming pool. Don't forget, they do the spacewalk in a swimming pool. That's true. NASA is faking it. You didn't evolve from monkeys. And Earth is called Le Maître. Have a nice day. There you go. I felt like being noisy. Fooled, you can't measure curvature. And measures curvature, and science demands measurement. Good science demands measurement. And if you can't measure it as what is curving, it's not curved, water is level.
I filmed her story.
The tide seemed to rotate. What I observe is different.
So that's fully consistent.
So take your time, go to the ocean, 5 feet, you'll notice it's level. Go on a holiday with your phone, it's flat. Take it like universities have done with no fisheye lenses, it's still flat. There's guys that are doing it.
You could at 30,000 feet, it would be flat, but at higher speeds, at some planes go 36,000 feet, and you can see a curve, and I've seen a curve.
But science says, Brian Cox and so on says, when I'm at this height, I can only see 3 miles to the geographic horizon. But when I take the time and I sit where I do next to the coast and I watch a container ship coming in 25 miles away, I can barely make it out, so I can't really tell if it's over the horizon. I take my nice camera with a big lens and zoom in, I can see the bottom of the boat ploughing through the water at 25 miles away. Where's my 3 miles gone that Professor Brian Cox and all the other guys told me? My own observations don't correlate. I think they're lying to deny you of where you live, who you created by something.
But you're saying oceans, you don't believe any of the current ocean science fiction. No. So you don't believe the Coriolis force. Why is the UK at the same latitude as Canada? Oh, you don't believe in latitude, do you? So I was going to say, why is the UK so warm if it's at the same latitude?
Do you
as
ever
Canada?
have an equidistal map or a Gleason map?
Go on.
So this is the United Nations logo, right. Azimuthal map.
Right. Yeah.
And so on.
Yeah.
North Pole in the centre.
Yeah.
The sun and moon and stars migrate around us. About halfway between that and the
How
edge.
do you explain moon cycles? From full moon to waxing and waning? How does that work? You don't know? I don't know. Okay. It's just there's so many parts of the Earth system, so volcanoes, earthquakes, the Coriolis force, the magnetic field. So many parts of the Earth system are consistent with the globe.
And as I said, I don't doubt the magnetic field. If we are in an electromagnetic realm, it's causing the up and down and so on. Everything else sorts itself out throughout points in density, so you can have various different liquids. None of them coalesce. Gas doesn't coalesce into a ball. Liquids don't coalesce. They stratify.
I know how
down their own layers.
That's physics. Yeah, sure. But
physics.
The point is, you're denying so much. You're not just like, because I think if you say the Earth is flat, it's not just one thing that you're saying. Like, so much of science is based around a global Earth that you would have to deny basically all of science. And that's just a crazy claim to make. I think.
It's not that I don't trust. I'll let them present the evidence, and then I'll take my time and I'll check.
But there's also a lot of things you just say you don't know, like magnetic field you don't know, ocean circulation you can't explain, volcanoes, earthquakes.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And
there's no. Is it wrong to say I don't know, or no, I have to believe somebody else that I can prove has already lied to me?
But you can look into it because it's so accessible though, and as in it's not just a case of it's not a case of.
But as rock as that,
no way. Flat Earth Society is there for you to find to make Flat Earth look ridiculous. I'm suggesting that Flat Earth is completely different. Space doesn't exist. The sun, moon, and stars are near and close. They all rotate as we observe. I'll give you something. If that's the sun,
I have got to go.
Very quickly. Right. If that's the sun, we're on a spinning ball, 1,000 miles an hour, orbit the sun 600 miles an hour. We're told whilst chasing the sun, it's doing 500,000 miles an hour. Today, we're going to look at the sun at night, into the sky at night time when it's dark, and we're going to see the North Star and all the other constellations, the plough and so on that we recognise. 6 months later, we're this side after doing all those bonkers speeds, and we look out that way and we see the same stuff. How does that work?
It's fully consistent, and you can look this up.
It's not consistent.
That's how constellations work.
Our
the way
observations
the physics
are
moves.
consistent.
And I thought this through myself when I was probably in year 7 science.
The information.
It fully makes sense.
These are official photographs of Earth from space to all distance. The information we've given is inconsistent. It will always be inconsistent.
It's not though. I don't think it is. And your theory is inconsistent with plate tectonics, Coriolis, volcanoes, earthquakes, all of our history.
All I can show you is what
driving Oxford, anyone over. Never really get a chance to think or watch, but when you're actually out on the streets though.
But can I suggest how much do you look into what I'm saying? Are you going to go home tonight?
To believe it all.
So, are you going to go home tonight?
It's pseudoscience. It isn't real. They want you to believe and not know a thing.
Can you go home tonight and look into the Coriolis?
You used to believe in Father Christmas. I've looked into it years ago. It is made up.
Well, you've not looked into it enough.
Mathematically, it works. I agree with you. Mathematically, it works. I can do it on the blackboard and make Coriolis work. In reality, it doesn't work.
It does. Observation. Like which direction is the wind going?
That's direct. Wind, it's not Coriolis.
The wind gets deflected because the direction of the wind cannot be explained without the Coriolis force.
But tomorrow, the wind could be blowing this way.
The wind would be going north-south consistently. You could go outside and measure. You can throw a leaf into the air, right? And on average, it will go east-west or west-east. I can't remember which way. But it's not going north-south.
What happens on the days it doesn't?
Because sometimes you have eddies. You constantly have transient changes, but on average, the wind will constantly be going east-west.
Keep your mind open.
On a flat
Earth,
it would be
all day long.
Keep your mind open.
Pseudoscience, young man. Take care. Ugh. It's waning. So who's that?
Not, I'm not believing. I am seeing so many videos that Earth is square.
Well, that's fair enough. I won't convince you otherwise.
Are you taking video?
Yes.
No, sorry.
Not of you. Not of you.
Sorry about the breaks in service here, guys. Signal has been rather patchy today, so I'm very sorry about that. We haven't had music for a while.
No.
Bit of Alex Michael did.
That church, quick work out. What's your latitude? What's your longitude? Oh, he's gone. He's Prime Minister. He missed it. Quick, there's one up there.
Oh, is this Coriolis?
Yeah, and I'd say that 100%. I agree with you. On paper, the Coriolis effect can be worked out mathematically, absolutely perfectly, if we lived on a spinning ball, but we don't. So I do agree.
Yes.
Yeah. Mathemagic.
Earth is flat, Oxford, not a spinning globe. NASA fake space. We never went to the moon. NASA is Disney for adults. Water is going to find level. Earth is flat, not a spinning rock in space. That's all made up. It's a belief system to keep people small. Heliocentrism is a religion. Earth is flat, enclosed. It's biblical. Sorry. Earth is flat, not a spinning rock in space. If you believe you live on a spinning rock in space, it's a religion. It's a religion. You can't measure curvature around the